Hey guys, tonight you find yourself waking beneath a heavy wool blanket in a small stone chamber where winter has settled into every crack of the wall. The rushes beneath your feet are damp from yesterday's boots. Smoke hangs dark beneath the rafters, and somewhere beyond the shuttered window a monastery bell counts the hour before dawn. Your breath clouds faintly in the cold. Down in the yard, horses stamp against frozen mud, their breath rising white beneath torchlight, while servants hurry between kitchen and hall, carrying baskets, kindling, and jugs of ale. Medieval travel brochures really oversold this experience, assuming medieval travel brochures existed at all. You probably would not last a week out here without complaining about the mattress, the plumbing, or the alarming confidence everyone places in cabbage. Today, however, discomfort is not what frightens you most. Today is your wedding day. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while the household begins to wake around you, tell me in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. For a moment you remain still. The blanket smells faintly of sheep's wool wood smoke and the dried lavender someone tucked beneath the mattress several weeks ago. Beside the bed, a beeswax candle has burned almost to its socket. Its flame leans whenever a draught slips through the shutters, casting the room into alternating bands of golden shadow. You have known this morning is coming for months. Still knowing is not the same as waking inside it. Beyond the oak door you hear women whispering. One voice belongs to your mother. Another is the household laundress who has somehow acquired more authority this morning than most bishops. A third voice belongs to your married cousin who arrived 2 days ago with several bundles of linen. 3 opinions about marriage and 1 opinion about your future husband that she refuses to explain clearly. You sit up slowly. Cold reaches you immediately. Your bare feet touch the rush-covered floor, and you nearly retreat into bed. The rushes are changed when the household can spare the labor, but today they have been freshly spread and mixed with mint-sweet woodruff and dried herbs. The scent rises whenever someone walks across them. In richer households, fresh rushes help disguise less romantic smells. Dogs' wet wool, spilled ale, grease smoke, and humanity living rather closely together. Wedding mornings apparently require mint. You pull a fur-lined cloak around your shoulders. The door opens. Your mother enters, carrying a small oil lamp, followed by 2 women balancing folded clothing across their arms. Nobody asks whether you slept well. That question would only waste time. Instead, your mother places 1 cool hand against your cheek. "You are pale," she says. You nod. "There are many things you might say. You say none of them." The household has been moving since long before dawn. In the kitchens below, cooks stir enormous pots of pottage while boys turn spits above the fire. Loaves of coarse bread wait beneath linen cloths. Smoked fish has been brought from the winter storehouse, and several precious wheels of cheese have been unlocked from a pantry whose key normally hangs from your mother's belt. Even marriage cannot persuade anyone to leave cheese unattended. From the courtyard comes the clatter of a broken cartwheel being examined. You heard it crack yesterday when one of your uncle's servants arrived from another manor. The wheel has become the household's minor catastrophe, second only to your marriage, and perhaps more passionately discussed. A dog scratches at the corridor door. It is a narrow-faced brown creature that has followed you around since childhood. Nobody seems to know who originally owned it. Some swear it belonged to a pilgrim who passed through years ago. Others insist it simply appeared beside the kitchen one rainy November evening and decided the manor belonged to it. No one can quite agree whether the dog is considered lucky. Your aunt claims animals behave strangely before important events. The kitchen servants claim the dog behaves strangely because people feed it beneath the table. Both explanations seem equally medieval. You allow it inside. It settles near the hearth circles twice and lies down with a sigh. The women begin preparing you. Your shift is clean linen, slightly rough against your skin. Over it comes a long gown of wool, carefully brushed and aired by the fire. The cloth is finer than what you wear on ordinary days, dyed a deep, warm shade that has cost your family more than your father enjoys discussing. Your sleeves are fitted, your belt is fastened, your hair is combed until your scalp protests quietly. There is no towering white wedding dress waiting for you, no veil resembling something from a later century, no carefully orchestrated procession designed for painted portraits. Instead, there are layers of fabric pins, ribbons, borrowed jewelry, family expectations, and cold fingers working quickly in poor light. One woman produces a small sprig of rosemary. She tucks it near your sleeve. For remembrance, she murmurs. Another woman ties a narrow thread around your wrist. It has been touched to a saint's relic. At least, that is what everyone has been told. Even now it is hard to tell whether the relic in question is genuinely ancient, genuinely sacred, or simply something a travelling cleric once presented with great confidence. Nobody wishes to investigate too closely. Faith is useful. So is diplomacy. Your mother crosses herself before fastening a small brooch at your throat. There are countless beliefs surrounding weddings. A candle guttering at the wrong moment may be interpreted as a warning. Rain might mean blessing, sorrow, fertility, or inconvenience, depending upon whom you ask. A bird striking a shutter is unfortunate. A bird singing near the church may be fortunate. A bride stumbling is unfortunate. A bride sneezing, according to one elderly servant, may mean practically anything. Medieval superstition has an admirable ability to explain events after they happen. You stand while your gown is adjusted. Through the narrow window, dawn begins to soften the sky. The manor yard becomes visible in grey-blue light. Mud lies frozen in ridges where wheels were crossed yesterday. Stable hands carry buckets. A man drags straw toward the guest horses. Near the gatehouse, two riders adjust their cloaks while waiting for the road to brighten. A bell sounds again, slow, heavy, measured. You have heard that bell almost every morning of your life. It marks prayer work, meals, weather, death, feast days, ordinary days, and all the small hours in between. Yet this morning it seems different. You realize with a quiet uneasiness that soon you may no longer wake to it. After today, another household may become yours, another hall, another hearth, another chapel, another set of servants whose names you do not yet know, perhaps another bell. That knowledge presses more heavily than the gown. For a medieval bride, marriage rarely belongs only to two people. Families hover around it. Property surrounds it. Inheritance lies beneath it. Neighbors witness it. The church blesses it. Servants gossip about it. And somewhere inside all those voices is you. You move toward the small hearth. The fire has almost gone out, but red embers remain beneath the ash. You warm your hands above them. Your fingers are trembling slightly. Your married cousin notices. She comes to stand beside you. For once she offers no advice. Outside, the dog begins barking at the sound of arriving horses. A moment later, you hear men calling in the courtyard. More guests. More witnesses, more people who will eat, drink, bless you. Inspect, you discuss you, and eventually remember this day according to their own version of events. Those who tell the tale never fully agree on what a bride feels before the church bells begin. Some describe obedience, some describe excitement, some describe duty, some describe fear. Most likely it is all of them together. Your mother opens the shutter. Cold morning air enters at once. River mist hangs beyond the fields, pale and low. Farther away, the church tower rises through it. That is where you will go. That is where promises will be spoken. But not yet. For now, you are still here. Still in the room where you slept as a girl, still listening to the same bell, still warming your hands above the same fading fire. And as footsteps gather beyond the door, you understand that the wedding day has begun long before anyone reaches the church. It begins here in the cold, while the household wakes around you and the life you know quietly starts to loosen its hold. The women finish fastening your sleeves while the grey light outside grows stronger, and for a little while the room settles into that peculiar stillness that comes when everyone has something important to say and nobody quite wishes to begin. Your mother breaks it first. She asks one of the servants to bring the small chest from the adjoining chamber. The servant returns carrying a narrow oak box bound with dark iron. You recognize it immediately. It has belonged to your family longer than anyone can remember clearly. And somewhere along its journey through generations, the lock has acquired the stubborn temperament of an elderly uncle. Your mother sets the chest near the bed and produces a key from the ring at her belt. The dog lifts its head. Even the dog seems to understand that keys matter in this house. The lock clicks. Inside are folded document, strips of parchment, a small purse of coins, and several seals wrapped carefully in cloth. You look at them and feel your stomach tighten. This, more than the flowers or the candles or the gown, is what your marriage has been built upon. You have grown up hearing adults discuss weddings in voices lowered whenever you enter the room. They speak of affection occasionally, but far more often they speak of acres, grazing, rights, mills, debts, inheritance, neighbouring estates, and the complicated question of who owns which meadow after somebody dies. Love may be discussed near the hearth. Marriage is discussed near the writing table. Your father has spent months negotiating with your future husband's family. Messengers have ridden muddy roads carrying letters. A local clerk has copied agreements in careful Latin. An ink-stained scribe from a nearby priory has been paid to examine an older grant concerning a patch of woodland that nobody seems to want until marriage negotiations begin, at which point it becomes apparently more valuable than Jerusalem. No one can quite agree whether the woodland actually belongs to your family. Your father says it does. Your husband's uncle says it does not. The priory says both families owe the monastery rent. The trees, meanwhile, remain magnificently uninterested. Your mother unfolds one parchment. You cannot read all of it. Even among noble or prosperous households, literacy varies greatly, and legal writing is another creature, altogether dense with formal phrases and careful obligations. What matters is that the parchment describes things connected to you without sounding much interested in you as a person. Land, money, household goods, promises, rights, your dowry. Marriage in this world is often less like stepping into a romance and more like becoming the bridge between two households that have spent years arguing about sheep. The thought would almost be funny if you were not the bridge. You run one finger along the edge of the chest. Your mother notices. This secures your place, she says quietly. And she is not entirely wrong. A dowry may include money, cloth, livestock, jewelry, land, household equipment or other property transferred as part of a marriage arrangement. What it means in practice varies by region, rank, and local custom. In some places, a woman may also have rights to dower property from her husband meant to support her if she becomes widowed. Marriage agreements can therefore offer protection. They can also become chains. Much depends on who controls the property, who survives, whom which promises are honored, and how willing powerful relatives are to respect written words when greed becomes more persuasive. Even now it is hard to tell whether many surviving marriage contracts reflect the real daily balance within a household or merely the balance everyone wished to place on parchment. You stand while your mother closes the chest. The sound of the lock seems unusually final. Downstairs, voices drift upward from the hall. Men are talking. You recognize your father among them. Another voice belongs to your uncle. A third is unfamiliar, perhaps someone from the groom's household. You move toward the doorway. Your mother stops you with a hand on your arm. Not yet, so you wait. Waiting is one of the great occupations of medieval life. You wait for daylight before traveling. You wait for grain to dry. You wait for bells. You wait for letters. You wait for weather. And today, apparently you wait while men discuss your future beneath the floorboards. Your cousin sits beside the hearth and begins warming her hands. She has been married for 6 years. You glance at her. She knows what you are thinking. You may like him, she says. The words are meant kindly. They do not quite comfort you. You have met your future husband only a few times. You know the sound of his voice. You know he prefers riding to hunting with hawks. You know he laughs loudly when other men laugh loudly. You know he once sent your father a barrel of wine. You know, surprisingly little else. Some medieval couples certainly know one another well before marriage. Others grow up in neighboring communities. Some marriages develop genuine affection over time. But many unions, particularly among landholding families, begin in negotiation rather than romance. You may not marry because your heart chooses. You marry because families calculate, because estates need heirs, because alliances matter, because disputed boundaries may be softened by kinship, because a daughter can connect one household to another in ways that swords, lawsuits, and prayers occasionally fail to accomplish. Some swear that marriages are strongest when affection comes after duty. Others insist affection should come first. Those who say so tend not to be the people signing the contracts. You listen again to the men below. A chair scrapes. Someone laughs. Then your father says something too quietly for you to hear. For the first time this morning, you think not of the ceremony, but of what happens after it. Once the vows are spoken, you cannot simply decide a few days later that the arrangement is inconvenient. The Church teaches that valid marriage is a serious bond. Annulments can occur under certain circumstances, but they are not casual exits, and legal disputes over marriage may become tangled in witnesses, promises, family interests, and ecclesiastical courts. You think of the manor court sessions you have watched from the edge of the hall. People argue over pigs. They argue over fences. They argue over debts worth less than your belt. Marriage concerns far more. Your cousin reaches toward the hearth and nudges a charred log deeper into the embers. Sparks rise. You are afraid, she says. It is not a question. You look at her. Yes. She nods as though this answer is entirely ordinary. Perhaps that is what surprises you most. No one seems shocked that a bride might be afraid. There is too much uncertainty in marriage for fear to be unusual. You may leave your parents. You may travel to a household where everyone already knows one another and you know almost nobody. You may be expected to manage servants older than you. You may face pregnancy and childbirth in years to come. You may have to learn your husband's moods, his family's rivalries, his debts, his habits, his dogs, his tenants, and probably at least one aunt who believes nobody folds linen correctly. The church bells ring again. Closer now. Your mother turns toward the sound. It will soon be time. You glance at the locked chest. The agreements remain inside, silent beneath iron and oak. There is something strangely comforting in that silence. The parchment cannot tell you whether your husband will be kind. It cannot promise companionship. It cannot guarantee happiness. It can only record what families have agreed to exchange. And suddenly, you understand why the wedding day may feel so frightening. You are not merely walking toward a man. You are walking into an arrangement made by many hands, into obligations written before you speak your vows, into a future partly planned by people who believe they know what is best for you. Outside, another horse enters the courtyard. Hooves strike frozen earth. The dog stands and begins wagging its tail. You pull the fur-lined cloak tighter around your shoulders. There are still prayers to say. There are charms to fasten. There are omens for elderly women to interpret with entirely too much confidence. But beneath all of them lies this quieter truth. Before the wedding bells ever ring, much of the marriage has already been decided. Before anyone allows you near the church, there is still the matter of what travels with you. The oak chest you saw opened earlier is only the beginning. By mid-morning, the passage outside your chamber has filled with bundles, folded linens, baskets, small boxes, and servants who keep stepping around one another with the solemn concentration of people transporting objects that everyone insists are extremely valuable and nobody wishes to drop. You follow your mother into the hall. The fire there burns hotter than the one upstairs, though the room is still cool enough that several guests keep their cloaks fastened. Rushes cover the stone floor, newly spread and mixed with dried herbs. Smoke gathers beneath soot-blackened rafters. Near the walls stand 3 larger chests, each reinforced with iron straps. These will travel with you. One contains linen, another holds clothing, the third carries household objects that are technically ordinary and yet have suddenly become symbols of your entire future. There are pewter plates, a carved wooden cup, 2 wool blankets, a small mirror backed with polished metal, needles, thread, a pair of shears, several lengths of cloth, a brass candlestick. Your mother lifts each object as though presenting sacred relics. Perhaps in a way she is. A household is built from things like these. Not crowns, not jeweled swords, not the sort of treasures singers mention in halls. It is built from blankets that keep out winter drafts, pots that survive years above smoky hearths, linen washed until it thins, keys carried at the belt, candles measured carefully because beeswax costs money, and knives sharpened until the handles fit the hand like old friends. One servant places a bundle of coarse cloth beside the chest. Your mother frowns. That is not part of it. The servant apologizes and removes it quickly. You almost smile. Apparently, the border between destiny and laundry is narrower than you expected. Your father enters the hall carrying another parchment. His expression has the familiar look he wears whenever money is involved. This morning, money appears to be involved in everything. He speaks with your uncle beside the fire. You do not need to hear every word to understand. A payment is still due. Some silver has already changed hands. More will follow after the marriage. There are animals promised as part of the arrangement. 3 cows, several sheep, possibly a young mare, though no one seems entirely certain whether the mare has already been promised elsewhere. No one can quite agree whether that confusion comes from poor record-keeping or from your uncle's remarkable ability to promise the same animal to several people at once. Your father insists the mare is yours. Your uncle studies the fire. This is not encouraging. Marriage payments vary enormously across medieval Europe, and there is no single neat system that fits every village, manor, kingdom, and century. A bride may bring a dowry. A husband may settle property upon her. Families may exchange gifts, land, livestock rights, or money. What matters here is that every item carries weight. Not only literal weight, though the servants currently dragging one chest across the floor would argue that point. Economic weight, social weight, family weight. If your father promises too much, his household may struggle. If he promises too little, your new family may feel cheated. If the groom's family fails to provide what was agreed, your own security may weaken. And if crops fail, debts rise, or relatives die unexpectedly, promises written carefully in ink may become much harder to fulfill. You watch your father count coins into a leather purse. Silver makes a soft, distinct sound against silver. It is not much louder than rain, yet everyone listens. A marriage can strengthen a family. It can also expose every weakness hidden beneath respectable clothing. Debts do not vanish because bells ring. Harvest shortages do not become less serious because a priest offers a blessing. A manor that appears prosperous may owe money to merchants, monasteries, moneylenders, neighboring lords, or the crown. Your own household is comfortable, but comfort is not the same as endless wealth. The winter storehouse tells the truth better than the great hall. You remember seeing fewer sacks of grain there last month than the year before. A wet summer damaged part of the harvest. 2 tenant families fell behind on rent. 1 ox died. A roof required repair. And now there is a wedding feast to provide. Your father would rather wrestle the manor bull than discuss the cost of the feast. Judging from the bull, this may be poor judgment. Your mother moves beside you. She checks the linens again. Many have been prepared over years. Some were woven in the household. Some were purchased at market. Several were embroidered by women who began working on them long before your marriage was certain. You touch one folded sheet. The linen is cool beneath your fingers. At the edge, tiny stitched flowers run along the hem. Your sister helped make them. She is too young to understand why you stare at the cloth so long. To her it is bedding. To you it is a piece of home packed into a chest. A servant brings a small bundle of dried herbs, rosemary, rue, a little lavender. One older woman insists a bride should carry certain herbs into her new household for protection and good fortune. Another says rue invites sadness. The two begin arguing quietly. Some swear that rosemary keeps memory and fidelity strong, while others attach entirely different meanings to the same plant depending on region and custom. You suspect the herbs are less dangerous than the argument. Your mother finally takes the rosemary and leaves the rue behind. A diplomatic solution. The dog appears at your side again. It sniffs one chest, then another, then attempts to climb into the linen chest. A servant lifts it out. The dog looks offended. You look at the iron-bound boxes and wonder whether everything important can truly be packed this neatly. Your clothes can, your blankets can, your cups and linens can, your mother's careful gifts can, but your familiarity with this place cannot. The sound of the kitchen door at dawn, the exact place where rain enters the western corridor, the bench beneath the pear tree, the smell of the storeroom after apples are brought in, the monastery bell across the fields, the way your father coughs before speaking when he is worried. None of those fit inside a chest. Your father approaches. He places the leather purse inside the smallest box. Then he looks at you. For a moment he is not negotiating anything. He is simply your father. His face seems older today. You will have what was promised, he says. You nod. You understand what he means. He is promising property, security, reputation. But beneath those things, perhaps, he is trying to promise that you will not be abandoned entirely to strangers. Even now it is hard to tell whether medieval parents who arrange marriages think first of strategy, survival, affection, or some mixture of all three. People are rarely as simple as the contracts they sign. The chest closes. An iron key turns. The servants begin carrying your possessions towards the courtyard. You follow them to the doorway. Cold air sweeps through the hall. Outside, horses wait beside a cart. The broken wheel from yesterday has been repaired, though it leans at an angle that inspires less confidence than everyone pretends. Your dowry chests will eventually travel with you toward another household. For now they stand in the mist like silent witnesses. Everything they contain has been counted, measured, promised, recorded, and suddenly you feel the strange burden of it. Your wedding does not unite only two names. It ties together debts, fields, animals, linen, silver expectations, and years of family bargaining. You are dressed for celebration, but all around you are the quiet calculations that made celebration possible. The church bells begin again beyond the mist. This time, your mother looks towards the tower. Soon, there will be no more delaying. Yet before you step onto the road, you glance once more at the locked chests and understand why a medieval bride might fear the future, waiting beyond them, because everything she brings can be counted. What she will receive in return cannot. The chests are closed, the coins counted, and the servants have begun carrying the last bundles towards the courtyard. Yet your mother does not let you follow them. Not yet. There are still protections to arrange. In a world where illness may arrive without warning, crops may fail after one cold rain, and a traveller can vanish along a forest road between one village and the next, people rarely trust chance when a little prayer, herb charm relic, or carefully observed omen might offer assistance. Your wedding day is no exception. If anything, it attracts more superstition than most. Your aunt enters the hall carrying a shallow wooden bowl filled with rosemary, dried lavender, and small sprigs of evergreen. Behind her comes the elderly household woman who argued earlier about rue. She has apparently recovered from losing that debate and now carries a different bundle of herbs with the calm determination of someone who intends to save your marriage, whether you requested salvation or not. The dog follows her, naturally. Your mother leads you towards the small household chapel. It occupies a narrow chamber on the eastern side of the manor, where dawn light passes through a tiny glazed window and falls across worn stone. A painted image of the Virgin stands above the altar. Nearby rests a wooden box containing what the family priest describes as a fragment associated with a saint. Associated is a useful word. No one can quite agree whether the object actually came from the saint in question. Your grandfather believed it did. Your father believes questioning it would be impolite. The priest has learned that this is sufficient. You kneel. The stone beneath the cushion is cold enough to remind you that holiness has never guaranteed comfort. A beeswax candle burns beside the altar. Its flame is steady at first. Then it bends sharply. Your aunt notices. You notice your aunt noticing. Your mother notices both of you. It is the draught, she says. This is sensible. Unfortunately, medieval superstition does not always surrender gracefully to sensible explanations. A candle that gutters during wedding preparations may trouble some households. A flame burning brightly may be seen as encouraging. If wax runs strangely down one side, somebody is likely to have an interpretation ready before it reaches the candlestick. Some swear that a clear flame promises harmony. Others say the important sign is whether the candle survives until the prayers are finished. The candle, unaware of its enormous responsibilities, continues burning. The priest begins a quiet blessing. You bow your head. The words are familiar. You have heard prayers spoken over harvests, sickness, childbirth journeys, funerals, storms, animals, and meals. The medieval world is filled with sacred protection because it is also filled with uncertainty. Saints may be called upon for specific dangers. Pilgrims travel long distances to touch shrines. Small badges bought near holy places are pinned to cloaks and hats. Relics are carried in processions when disease threatens. Travellers stop at roadside crosses before entering dangerous stretches of road. And brides standing at the edge of an unfamiliar future are rarely considered people who have too much spiritual protection already. When the prayer ends, the priest touches the little thread around your wrist. It is the same thread one of the women tied there upstairs. He murmurs another blessing. Your aunt slips rosemary beneath the edge of your belt. For memory, she whispers again. You wonder what exactly you are expected to remember. Your vows, your family, your duties, perhaps all of it. Rosemary is connected with remembrance in many later traditions, while medieval uses and meanings vary greatly by place and period. Herbs may be practical, medicinal, symbolic, religious, or simply familiar things people trust because their mothers trusted them first. The elderly servant now produces a small piece of iron. Your mother raises an eyebrow. For luck, the woman says. The iron is no larger than your thumb. It may have come from an old horseshoe. Some people believe iron discourages harmful forces, fairies, spirits, or ill fortune. Others would call that foolishness. Even now it is hard to tell how seriously every individual accepts such beliefs. A person may laugh at a superstition in daylight and still avoid tempting it after sunset. You are handed the iron. It is cold in your palm. Your mother sighs. You cannot carry half the smithy to church. The servant looks disappointed. The dog sits beside the chapel door and yawns. Perhaps it has the healthiest religious perspective in the room. Eventually, the piece of iron is tucked into a small pouch beneath your cloak. You suspect nobody will remember it after noon. Then comes the weather. Your uncle enters the chapel long enough to announce that mist is lifting over the road. Your aunt immediately steps toward the window. The sky is pale but clear. That is good, she says. The elderly servant disagrees. A little rain would be better. Your cousin leans against the wall. Yesterday you said rain on a wedding day meant sorrow. The servant frowns. Only heavy rain. Apparently, heaven must observe precise quantities. Outside, a rook crosses the yard. Your aunt watches it. One bird. Then another follows. Her shoulders relax. You decide not to ask why. Birds attract endless interpretation. A crow, raven, dove, swallow, or owl may be viewed differently, depending on region, time, circumstance, and whoever happens to be telling the story. People look toward animals because animals appear to know things humans do not. They sense storms. They hear approaching riders. They vanish before danger. At least that is what people say. Some swear that birds flying toward a bride promise good fortune. Others insist direction matters. Others insist number matters. Others, probably exhausted by relatives like yours, simply look at the birds. A servant arrives carrying warm ale. You accept a small cup. Spiced or warmed drinks are common comforts in cold households, and this morning the ale feels more useful than half the charms surrounding you. You drink slowly. Heat spreads through your hands. Your mother watches you carefully. Do not spill it. You nearly laugh. Of all the possible dangers attached to your wedding staining the gown, appears to be the one everyone understands best. You return to the hall. The household is louder now. Guests gather near the entrance. Someone has brought a pilgrim badge from a distant shrine and offers it for you to touch. It is made from cheap metal, shaped in the image of a saint. The owner proudly explains where it came from. Your father listens with polite suspicion. Pilgrim badges may be treasured as signs of devotion and journeys completed. Some are touched to shrines or relics and treated almost like protective objects. You press your fingers briefly against it. The metal is worn smooth. You think of the road ahead. Then the dog suddenly sneezes. Everyone goes quiet. The elderly servant stares. Your cousin covers her mouth to hide a smile. Your aunt asks whether that means anything. The servant hesitates. For once she has no answer ready. You are deeply relieved. A wedding is difficult enough without a prophetic dog. Outside the cart creaks. The repaired wheel holds. A horse stamps in the mud. Someone calls for cloaks. Your mother adjusts the fabric at your shoulders one last time. Around you, every object seems to carry meaning now. The candle, the herbs, the iron, the birds, the mist, the relic. Even the direction in which someone steps through a doorway may suddenly become worthy of discussion. It would be easy to dismiss all of this as foolish. But standing here, you understand something softer beneath it. These customs are attempts to make uncertainty bearable. Your family cannot promise your husband will be gentle. They cannot promise children will come safely. They cannot promise harvests will be good. Illness will stay away, or your new household will welcome you warmly. So they bless you. They tie things to your wrist. They tuck herbs into your clothing. They watch the weather. They read hope into birds. They carry tiny fragments of iron and saints and old stories into the space where certainty cannot go. The church bell sounds across the fields. Everyone stops. The note rolls through the morning air deep and slow. You look toward the door. This time, nobody tells you to wait. Your mother takes your hand. The dog rises. The mist is thinning beyond the courtyard. Soon your boots will touch the muddy road. Soon the church tower will grow larger before you. But for one last moment, you stand beneath the soot-black rafters of home with rosemary at your waist, iron beneath your cloak, a saint's thread around your wrist, and half a household watching the sky as though heaven might send a final message before you leave. Your mother's hand remains around yours as you cross the threshold, and the cold meets you at once. It is sharper outside than you expected. The air smells of wet earth, wood smoke, horse sweat, and the faint sweetness of hay stored beneath the stable roof. Frost still clings to the shaded edges of the courtyard, though the centre has already been churned into dark mud by boots' hooves and cart wheels. Servants move quickly around the horses, tightening girths, checking straps, lifting cloaks from pegs. Your breath rises pale in front of you. So does the breath of every horse. For a moment, the whole yard seems filled with small drifting clouds. The dog slips through the doorway behind you and immediately trots toward the road, as if it has personally been placed in charge of the procession. Nobody stops it. Perhaps this is another omen. Perhaps everyone is simply too busy. Your father waits near the gatehouse in a heavy wool cloak trimmed with fur. Your uncle stands beside him, still arguing with a servant about the repaired cart wheel. The wheel leans slightly outward, though not enough, apparently, to justify postponing your marriage. This is reassuring in the way a bridge is reassuring when someone tells you it has only collapsed twice. The chests will follow later. For now, the smaller party prepares to travel toward the church. The distance is not great, but medieval roads have a talent for making short journeys feel considerably more ambitious. The lane beyond the manor is little more than packed earth between hedges. Rain from 2 days earlier has softened the ground, and every cart that passed yesterday has carved deep ruts into it. Where water remains, a thin skin of ice glitters beneath the morning light. You gather your gown slightly and step carefully. Your mother notices. Slowly, you obey. A bride stumbling on the way to church is exactly the sort of event several elderly women would interpret for the next 20 years. Your boots sink into the mud. So much for dignity. The procession begins without fanfare. There are horses for some of the older relatives, but you walk part of the way with your family, wrapped in your fur-lined cloak, while attendants follow carrying bundles and spare cloth. Depending on wealth, distance, season, and local custom, a medieval bride might ride, walk, or travel in a cart. But nobody here expects the road to be elegant. It is simply the road, the same one used by peasants driving pigs to market, the same one taken by monks travelling between estates, the same one followed by peddlers, tax collectors, wandering craftsmen, pilgrims, and occasional men who insist their cart axle was perfectly sound until somebody else touched it. You pass the first cottages beyond the manor boundary. Smoke leaks from low roofs. A woman stands in a doorway with a child beside her, but the child is quickly pulled back from the mud as your party approaches. 2 men repairing a fence straighten and remove their caps. Everyone knows where you are going. That knowledge feels strangely heavy. You have travelled this road many times. You have walked it for feast day mass. You have followed it during spring processions when fields were blessed. You have ridden along it beside your father after visiting tenants. Once several years ago you walked this way, carrying candles during a rogation procession while the priest prayed over boundaries and crops. The hedges have not changed. The church tower has not changed. But today, every familiar thing seems to be watching you leave. The dog races ahead, then returns, then races ahead again. Its enthusiasm feels almost offensive. Your cousin walks at your other side. She lifts her skirt over a puddle. You see, she says quietly, this is why marriage songs never mention the mud. You smile, despite yourself. A light wind moves through the bare branches above the lane. Somewhere beyond the hedges a crow calls. Nobody comments. This is progress. The road rises gently. As you climb, the manor falls behind you. Its roofs become visible through the trees, smoke climbing from the kitchen chimney. Beyond them stretch winter fields, divided by hedges and low banks, some dark from recent ploughing, others pale beneath frost. You know those fields. You know which one floods first in spring. You know the meadow where cattle break through the fence every summer. You know the narrow stream where servants wash linen when the weather allows. The landscape itself has become a kind of memory. Soon another landscape may become ordinary. That thought returns again and again. Marriage means more than a ceremony. It means geography. The church bell sounds. Closer now. The note rolls across the fields and fades into the mist. Your mother crosses herself. Several others do the same. Bells mark the rhythm of medieval life so constantly that people often orient themselves by sound rather than clocks. Monastic hours, mass alarms, funerals, feast days, and local emergencies may all be announced from towers. A bell can call people toward prayer. It can warn of fire. It can tell travelers that a settlement lies beyond the trees. Today it tells everyone that your wedding morning is moving forward whether you feel prepared or not. You pass a roadside shrine. It is small, built into a stone niche where the lane divides near an old oak. Inside stands a weathered image of the Virgin, its painted face almost faded away. Bits of wax cling to the ledge beneath it. Someone has left dried flowers. Another person has tied a strip of cloth around a branch nearby. Travelers stop here before journeys. Women sometimes pray here before childbirth. Farmers leave small offerings after surviving illness. Some swear that a bride who passes the shrine without making the sign of the cross invites misfortune. You stop, not because you are certain, because today does not feel like the right day to test the theory. You cross yourself. Your mother whispers a prayer. For a brief moment, the procession becomes quiet. Only the horses move bridles softly, jingling. Wind passes through the hedge. Then you continue. Farther down the lane, you meet two pilgrims coming in the opposite direction. Their cloaks are stained with mud, and one wears a pewter badge pinned to his hat. Each carries a staff. One has wrapped cloth around his boots where the leather has split. They step aside respectfully. God give you joy, the older man says. Your father thanks him. You glance at the badge. Perhaps it comes from Canterbury. Perhaps from a smaller shrine. Perhaps the man has travelled for weeks. No one can quite agree whether meeting pilgrims on a wedding road is fortunate in every region, but your aunt walking behind you decides that it is. She announces this confidently. Nobody challenges her. The older pilgrim smiles. Then he and his companion disappear toward the manor road, their staffs tapping softly against frozen earth. You walk on. The church tower rises higher. Now you can see the roof, then part of the churchyard wall. The road becomes busier as villagers join from smaller tracks. A woman carrying a basket pauses to watch. Two men leading a mule step aside. A merchant's cart approaches from the opposite direction, forcing your party toward the edge of the lane where mud is deepest. The merchant apologizes. His horse does not. You step onto a patch of grass and feel water seep around the edge of your boot. Your cousin looks down. So much for lucky shoes. You whisper that at least you are still standing. She nearly laughs. That small exchange loosens something inside your chest. Not much, but enough. The church bells begin again. This time, more than one bell answers. Their voices overlap above the village roofs. Ahead, people gather near the churchyard. Some are family, some are neighbors. Some have come because weddings are rare entertainment. Some are there because witnessing matters. A medieval marriage is not meant to vanish quietly into private memory. It exists before families, neighbors, clergy, and community. That is part of what makes the walk toward it feel so exposed. You pull your cloak tighter. The rosemary at your waist brushes against the wool. The small piece of iron remains hidden beneath the fabric. The saint's thread is still tied around your wrist. Behind you, the manor has almost disappeared. Ahead, the church door waits beneath its stone arch. You hear voices, you hear bells, you hear the dog bark once from somewhere near the churchyard. Your hands are cold again. The last stretch of road is only a few dozen steps. Yet those steps seem different from all the others. You have crossed frost, mud, familiar fields, a roadside shrine, the gaze of neighbors. Now every footfall carries you towards the place where private fear will become public promise. You slow slightly. Your mother does not hurry you. For a few precious breaths, you are allowed to walk at your own pace. Then the bells roll over the village once more, and together you continue towards the church door. The church door stands open beneath its weathered stone arch, and as you approach it, the sound of the bells seems to settle into the very ground beneath your boots. Villagers have gathered along the churchyard wall. Some bow their heads as your family passes. Others simply watch with the calm curiosity of people who have known you since childhood and now feel entitled to witness what happens next. The dog has arrived before everyone. It sits beside a grave marker tail, thumping against the frozen grass, looking absurdly pleased with itself. Your mother takes your arm. Together you cross through the gate. The churchyard smells of damp earth, cold stone, and smoke drifting from nearby cottages. Small patches of frost remain beneath the wall. Wooden crosses lean above older graves, while a few wealthier families have carved stones nearer the church. You know several of the names. That does not help. Weddings and burials occupy neighboring ground here, which is perhaps medieval life's way of discouraging excessive optimism. Ahead, beneath the porch, your future husband waits. You recognize his dark cloak first, then his face. He stands beside his father and two male relatives, with the priest nearby in vestments suitable for the ceremony. His hair has been carefully combed. His boots are cleaner than yours. This seems unfair. For one moment he looks almost as nervous as you feel. Then he notices you. He straightens. You have seen him only a handful of times, always surrounded by other people. Once at a feast. Once during negotiations between your families. Once when he rode past the manor with his uncle and stopped to speak with your father. You remember little from those meetings, except his hands. Large hands. A scar near one knuckle. Today those hands are clasped in front of him. Your father approaches. Greetings are exchanged. There are bows, polite words. Nobody says anything about fear. The priest motions everyone closer to the church entrance. In many parts of medieval Europe, significant portions of a wedding ceremony may take place at or near the church door before the couple enters for mass and blessing. Customs change from region to region and across centuries, but the doorway itself holds powerful meaning. You stand between outside and inside, between household and church, between one life and another. The symbolism is almost offensively obvious. Your cousin catches your eye from behind your mother. She gives the smallest possible smile. You breathe. The priest begins. His voice is steady and practiced. Words of obligation and consent are spoken while relatives and neighbors stand close enough to hear. This public witnessing matters. Marriage is spiritual, social, legal, and economic all at once, and memory may later become evidence if anyone disputes what was promised. A wedding without witnesses can create uncomfortable questions. A wedding with too many witnesses creates different problems, mostly gossip. Your husband-to-be steps nearer. The priest addresses him. Then your heart beats faster. The words you must speak are not complicated. That almost makes them more frightening. A complicated speech could hide you. A short promise cannot. You answer. Your voice sounds smaller than you expected, but it carries. Nobody laughs. Nobody objects. The priest continues. Your future husband answers in turn. You listen carefully. Consent matters deeply in medieval Christian teaching, even when families exert enormous pressure over whom their children marry. Church authorities increasingly emphasize that a valid marriage depends upon the consent of the man and woman themselves, though actual lived reality can be far messier. A bride may technically speak the necessary words herself, while still standing beneath the combined weight of parents, property, expectation, and fear. Freedom on parchment and freedom inside a household are not always the same thing. Even now it is hard to tell how many medieval brides experience this moment as genuine choice, resigned duty, careful compromise, or some shifting mixture of all three. Your hands have gone cold, not from the weather. The priest asks for the ring. One of the groom's relatives produces it. For half a heartbeat, he cannot find it. Everyone watches. He searches one sleeve, then another. Your uncle coughs. Your aunt's expression suggests a catastrophe of biblical importance. Finally, the ring appears from a small leather pouch at his belt. The priest says nothing. Your cousin looks down to hide another smile. Somewhere behind you, the dog scratches itself. The entire institution of Christian marriage survives the crisis. The ring is blessed. Depending on place and period, rings may carry varying customs and symbolism. They are not necessarily elaborate. Wealthy families may afford precious metal, but the significance lies less in decoration than in what the object represents. A circle, a promise, a visible sign. Your husband takes your hand. His fingers are warm. That surprises you. For the first time all morning, you become intensely aware that he is not merely part of an agreement. He is another human being standing inside it, perhaps frightened too, perhaps uncertain, perhaps simply better at hiding it. He slides the ring into place. You look down. It feels heavier than it should. The priest speaks another blessing. Someone behind you whispers. Your mother turns slightly. The whisper stops. There may be other gifts or tokens associated with marriage depending upon custom coins, symbolic property, arrangements concerning dower or gestures whose meaning everyone nearby understands without explanation. But your attention narrows. You hear the priest, the bells fading above the roof, the rustle of wool, a horse stamping beyond the churchyard. A child being quietly shushed near the gate. The ordinary world continues while your life changes. That seems almost rude. You expected perhaps that everything would feel transformed instantly. Instead, the wind still smells like winter. Your boot is still wet from the road. The rosemary is still tucked at your waist. And somebody nearby has eaten onions recently. History rarely smells as dignified as paintings suggest. The priest asks another question. You answer. Your husband answers. Witnesses listen. The words settle between you. Some swear that certain phrases spoken in the present tense are especially important in medieval marriage law because wording can distinguish a current marital consent from a promise to marry in the future. Such distinctions may later become enormously important in ecclesiastical courts. People have argued over fewer words than the number you speak beneath this porch. You think suddenly of the ink-stained documents in the oak chest at home. They concern land and goods. These spoken words concern something the parchment cannot completely hold, your own consent. Whatever pressures brought you here, the church wants to hear your voice, and so you give it. The priest finally turns towards the open church. The formal moment at the threshold is ending. Your relatives shift. Your father releases a breath you did not realize he had been holding. Your mother touches the back of your cloak. Your husband glances toward you. For one brief second, neither of you moves. You stand together beneath the arch. Behind you lies the muddy road, your childhood manor, the shrine beneath the old oak and the bell you have heard since you were small. Ahead lies candlelight, incense, painted saints, mass, blessings, and a deeper understanding that what has just happened cannot easily be unsaid once everyone returns home. No one can quite agree whether brides in moments like this feel the sacred weight of marriage more strongly than the practical consequences waiting outside the church walls. Perhaps the distinction barely exists. Religion shapes the promise. Family shapes the circumstances. Custom shapes the ceremony. And fear slips quietly through all three. The priest steps inside. Your husband follows. You hesitate only long enough to feel the cold wind pass across your face. Then you cross the threshold beside him. The church grows dim around you. The noise of the village softens behind the oak door. And beneath the painted saints and wavering candles, the promises spoken outside begin to take on a holiness that makes them feel heavier still. The oak door closes behind you with a low, wooden thud, and the winter morning becomes suddenly distant. Inside the church, the air is colder than the manor hall, but strangely still. Smoke from incense hangs beneath the rafters in thin blue-grey layers. Beeswax candles tremble along the side altars, their light touching painted saints whose faces look down from the walls with expressions somewhere between compassion and stern patience. Your wet boots make almost no sound on the stone. You walk slowly beside your husband. Behind you come your parents, his family, cousins, neighbors, servants, and enough interested villagers to ensure that whatever happens this morning will be remembered in at least 6 contradictory versions by supper. The dog mercifully has been left outside. Probably. You glance back once. No dog. A small blessing. The priest leads you farther towards the altar. The church is not large. The walls are thick and irregular, darkened in places by years of candle smoke. Painted figures of Christ, the virgin apostles, martyrs, and local saints stand above you in colors that would have seemed brighter when newly applied. Red, blue, gold, green. Some faces are chipped. One saint has lost part of a hand where damp has eaten through the plaster. Still, the effect is powerful. You have entered this church many times before. Today it feels different. Every image seems to concern marriage. Every candle seems to burn for you. Every carved angel seems to know exactly how frightened you are and has chosen not to comment. The priest gestures for you to kneel. You lower yourself carefully. The cold stone presses through the cushion. Your husband kneels beside you. His sleeve brushes yours. For a moment, neither of you looks at the other. The Mass begins. Latin fills the church. You understand some phrases. Others flow past like water over stones. For most ordinary people, worship is experienced not only through words, but through sound gesture, incense bells, images, movement, and repetition. You know when to bow. You know when to cross yourself. You know when everyone around you grows quiet. The rhythm is familiar. That familiarity steadies you. A server moves near the altar. A small bell sounds. Your mother bows her head. You do the same. Incense reaches you. It is sweet, resinous, and slightly bitter. Under it lies the smell of damp wool from dozens of cloaks. History painters rarely include that part. Painted saints apparently inhabit a world where nobody has stood in winter rain before entering church. You breathe slowly. The priest speaks of marriage as more than agreement between households. It is a sacred bond, a joining before God, a state carrying duties, restraint, fidelity, mutual obligations, and the expectation that husband and wife will order their household according to Christian teaching. The language can sound comforting. It can also sound permanent. That permanence settles into you more deeply than the ring. The property negotiations at home were practical. The promises at the church door were public. Here, beneath the painted saints, the marriage is wrapped in eternity. Your fear changes shape. You are no longer thinking only about leaving your mother's house. You are thinking about whether you can live rightly inside the life that has been chosen. The priest continues. There are warnings as well as blessings. Marriage is not presented as endless feasting and ribbons. You are reminded of duty, patience, faithfulness, the ordering of the household, the responsibilities of husband and wife. Some teachings emphasize obedience in ways that fall unevenly upon women, and the social world beyond the church walls reinforces those expectations strongly. Yet, Christian marriage also places obligations upon husbands. A man is not simply permitted to behave however he wishes without moral judgment. He is expected to provide, to remain faithful, to govern his household responsibly, and to answer spiritually for his conduct. How well individuals live according to such ideals is another question entirely. No one can quite agree whether sermons change people more effectively than hunger, money, affection, fear, or stubborn temperament. You suspect temperament wins more often than priests would like. A veil is adjusted over your head. The cloth brushes your forehead. Wedding veils and coverings vary greatly across time and place, but here the gesture makes you feel enclosed within the ceremony. The world narrows. Candlelight glows softly through the fabric at the edge of your vision. You look down at your hands. The ring catches the flame. You think again of your future household. The iron keys you may someday carry. The winter storehouse you may help manage. The servants who may look to you for instructions. The wool blankets counted before cold months. The smoked fish hung from beams. The sacks of grain measured after harvest. Marriage does not end at the bedchamber or the feast. It becomes work, daily work, quiet work. The sort no minstrel bothers to sing about, because inventorying onions makes a poor ballad. The priest raises his hands in blessing. Your husband bows his head. You glance at him. His face is calmer now. Or perhaps he has simply learned how to appear calm when relatives are watching. You wonder what he fears. A wife he scarcely knows. The expectation of heirs. The burden of property. His father's judgment. Debt. Illness. War. Harvest. Failure. Perhaps you are both walking into uncertainty from opposite sides. This thought comforts you more than the rosemary. A candle near the side altar suddenly sputters. Your aunt notices. Of course she does. Her eyes widen. Then the flame steadies. Nothing happens. No saint falls from the wall. No thunder cracks overhead. You almost smile. Some swear that candle flames reveal hidden favor or warning. Others insist wax is simply wax and drafts are simply drafts. Even now it is hard to tell how many people truly believe such signs and how many merely enjoy having something to discuss afterward. The Mass continues. Time becomes difficult to measure. The bells that usually tell you the hour are muffled by stone. Outside villagers shift their feet in the cold. Inside the sacred rhythm moves slowly onward. Prayer, silence, movement, incense, candlelight. Your knees begin to ache. This too is part of holiness, apparently. Eventually, the priest turns toward you both again. A blessing is spoken over your marriage. You hear your name, then your husband's. For an instant, the ceremony stops, feeling general. It becomes painfully specific. You, him. This life. You bow your head. Your mother is crying quietly somewhere behind you. You know, without looking. Your father will pretend not to notice. Your cousin probably notices everything. The priest completes the blessing. People begin to shift. The formal stillness loosens. You rise carefully. Your legs are stiff from kneeling. Your husband offers his hand. You hesitate only a moment before taking it. His grip is gentle. That small detail matters more than it should. You stand together beneath the dim-painted saints. Outside waits noise. Food, ale, music, relatives, jokes, and a feast where every person will watch how you sit, eat, speak, and look at your new husband. But for a few breaths, none of that has begun. The church remains quiet around you. Incense curls upward. The candles burn steadily. Your ring rests cool against your finger. You understand now why the sacred part of the wedding can frighten a bride as much as the social one. A contract may be disputed. A dowry may be renegotiated. A road may turn back toward home. But vows spoken beneath saints before family, neighbors, priest, and God are meant to reach much farther than the church door. And when you finally turn toward that door again, the world outside is still the same winter village. Only you are expected to be different. When the church door opens again, daylight seems almost too bright. You blink beneath the pale winter sky. For a moment, everyone stands close together in the churchyard while cloaks are adjusted, greetings exchanged, and the solemn silence of the ceremony gives way to voices that have been waiting patiently behind teeth. Then someone cheers. Another person laughs. A musician near the wall lifts a pipe. And just like that, your marriage becomes a feast. The walk back toward the manor feels shorter than the journey to church, although the mud has not improved in your absence. Your husband walks beside you now. That alone changes the procession. Before the vows you travelled, surrounded mostly by your own family. Now the two households move together. His father speaks with yours. Your mother walks beside one of his aunts. Your cousin has somehow fallen into conversation with a servant from his household and is already learning details you suspect will reach you before sunset. The dog races ahead again. It has accepted your marriage without consultation. Perhaps that makes one of you. You pass the roadside shrine where you stopped earlier. This time, you do not pause. The rosemary remains tucked at your waist. The saint's thread still circles your wrist, and the tiny piece of iron presses against your side beneath the cloak. You are carrying enough spiritual insurance to survive a moderately complicated haunting. Your husband notices you touch the hidden pouch. What is that? You glance at him. Protection. He looks amused. From me, you almost answer yes. Instead you say, from bad luck. He nods as though this is perfectly reasonable. Perhaps it is. Some swear that newly married couples are especially vulnerable to enviable fortune-wandering spirits or the simple danger of attracting too much attention. Charms, blessings, herbs, and protective gestures may therefore continue long after the church ceremony ends. Today there is certainly no shortage of attention. By the time you reach the manor gate, more people have gathered than were present when you left. Tenants, neighbours, servants, children standing near doorways, travellers who appear to have discovered that free food is being served and suddenly remember a close friendship with your family. The courtyard is alive with smoke and noise. A large fire burns near the kitchens. Servants carry trenchers stacked on wooden boards. Jugs of ale move in both directions. Someone has hung greenery above the hall entrance, though winter has made the decoration more hopeful than lush. The broken cartwheel still leans near the stable. It has survived the morning. A triumph for engineering and prayer alike. Inside the great hall, the transformation is greater. The tables have been set on trestles. Fresh rushes cover the floor. Beeswax candles burn near the high table, while cheaper tallow lights serve farther down the hall. The air smells of roasted meat, bread onions, smoke-spilled ale, wool herbs, and the unmistakable heat of too many people gathered in one stone room. You remove your cloak. Immediately, several women examine your gown. One adjusts a fold. Another brushes away a spot near the hem. Your mother notices the mud on your boot and looks personally betrayed by the road. Then you are guided toward the high table. Your husband sits beside you. Your parents sit nearby. His relatives occupy places according to rank relationship, and whatever invisible hierarchy, everyone seems to understand, except you. Below them, guests fill long benches. A medieval feast is never merely about eating. Where someone sits matters. What food reaches which table matters. Who receives the best cuts matters. Who is served first matters. Even the salt may occupy a position that quietly separates higher status from lower. The hall is arranged like society itself, only with more gravy. A servant brings bread trenchers. These thick slices or slabs of stale bread serve as plates for portions of food and may later be eaten, given to the poor, or passed to animals depending on household custom. You look down at yours. It is firm enough to defend a small gatehouse. Ale is poured. You take a careful sip. The warmth of the hall has begun to loosen the chill in your fingers. Music starts near the wall. A fiddle, a pipe, a small drum. The tune is lively but not wild. Conversation rises beneath it. Then the first dishes arrive. Roasted capon, pottage thick with peas and herbs, coarse bread, cheese, smoked fish, a platter of pork. There are onions cooked soft in fat and small pies filled with minced meat. For wealthier guests, spices appear in sauces, pepper, cinnamon, perhaps cloves, ingredients expensive enough to signal prosperity. Your father has clearly decided that today nobody is to leave accusing him of stinginess. He may regret this tomorrow. You eat slowly, partly because your stomach is still tight, partly because everyone seems to be watching. That is the strange thing about being a bride. You are celebrated, but celebration means visibility. When you lift your cup, someone notices. When your husband speaks to you, someone notices. When you smile, several people notice. If you fail to smile, even more people notice. A marriage may concern two people in theory. A wedding feast belongs to everyone. Your husband leans toward you. Are you hungry? You consider the mountain of food before you. Not particularly. He gives a small laugh. Neither am I. That surprises you. He pushes a piece of bread around his trencher. For the first time, he seems less like the man selected for you and more like someone trapped beside you beneath the same enormous attention. You ask whether he dislikes feasts. I like other people's feasts. You almost laugh. That is the most sensible thing anyone has said all day. A servant approaches carrying a dish of roasted apples with honey. Behind him, another man nearly slips on spilled ale. He recovers with astonishing dignity. Nobody comments. This is kindness. At the lower tables, conversation grows louder. Guests drink more freely. A man you vaguely recognize from a neighboring manor begins telling a story about a hunting accident. His listeners interrupt constantly. The story becomes longer with every interruption. Some swear that medieval feasts are disorderly spectacles from beginning to end. Others imagine them as rigid ceremonies where nobody dares speak without permission. Reality is often somewhere in between. Rank structures the room. Etiquette matters. Yet people still laugh. Drink, gossip, spill things, argue, flirt, sing, and tell stories they have told 20 times before. Human beings remain stubbornly human. You watch one servant replace a candle. Another gathers used trenchers. A kitchen boy carries a heavy pitcher with both hands. Behind the spectacle lies labor. Cooks have worked since before dawn. Servants will continue until long after guests sleep. Firewood must be carried, ale fetched, platters washed, bones cleared, dogs discouraged from climbing onto benches. The dog from home has already failed to respect the final rule. It appears beneath your table. You feel its nose against your ankle. Without looking down, you break off a small piece of bread and let it fall. Your husband sees. He says nothing. A useful quality in a husband, you decide. At the far end of the hall, musicians begin another tune. Several guests clap along. Your aunt raises her cup toward you. Your mother gives you a look that means sit straighter. You obey automatically. Even now, it is hard to tell whether brides enjoy these hours as relief after the church ceremony or endure them as another stage of public scrutiny. Perhaps both. The feast is warm. The food is plentiful. Your husband has so far been gentle. Your family is near. There is laughter in the hall. And still beneath all of it, you feel the evening approaching. You know that the feast will not continue forever. Candles will shorten. Isla cups will empty. Guests will grow louder. Songs will change. Jokes will become more pointed. Eventually, someone will mention the bedchamber. You know this without anyone needing to say it yet. Your cousin catches your eye from farther down the table. She knows too. For now, however, the hall remains bright. A servant adds another log to the fire. Sparks rise toward the soot-black rafters. Your husband offers you the dish of honeyed apples. You take one. Outside, the winter afternoon is already fading toward blue. Inside, every candle seems to burn a little warmer. So you remain where you are, surrounded by food, music, witnesses, and the strange public happiness expected of a new bride, while the feast watches everything and evening slowly gathers beyond the shuttered windows. By the time the last of the pale winter light disappears from the shutters, the feast has changed. Not dramatically, not all at once. It happens the way evening always seems to happen in a crowded medieval hall. One candle burns lower than another. Cloaks loosen. Servants carry fresh jugs of ale. The musicians begin playing tunes with a little more bounce in them, and people who spoke politely during the first course now lean across tables as though they have known one another since childhood. The fire burns hotter. The room smells richer. Roasted meat has given way to honey, spices, wet wool, wood smoke, and spilled drink. Your trencher has been cleared. Someone replaces it with a small dish of dried fruit and nuts. You take one hazelnut mostly because it gives your hand something to do. Beside you, your husband drinks slowly. He has not joined the louder men farther down the table where your uncle is currently attempting to prove that he can remember every verse of a song he clearly stopped remembering 3 verses ago. This is encouraging. Your cousin catches your eye. She lifts one eyebrow. You understand immediately. The evening has reached the dangerous part. Not dangerous in the sense of swords or ambushes. Dangerous in the sense of relatives gaining confidence. A wedding feast begins with blessings and careful manners. It often ends with songs, and songs are capable of going places priests wisely avoid. One of the musicians begins a familiar tune about a shepherd and a milkmaid. You recognize it. Your mother recognizes it. Your mother's expression suggests that the song should have been outlawed several generations ago. The lower tables laugh. Your husband looks at you. Do you know this one? You pretend not to. He smiles. You are beginning to suspect he knows exactly why. The music continues. Wedding songs can be playful, symbolic, devotional, sentimental, or openly teasing, depending on place, period, and company. Some celebrate fertility, some joke about married life, Some contain warnings disguised as humor. And some are simply excuses for married people to embarrass unmarried people who can no longer escape. You are now the primary target. An elderly man near the fire raises his cup and calls a blessing toward you. That is harmless enough. Then a woman from your husband's family responds with a joke about how little sleep newlyweds require. Laughter rises around the hall. Your face becomes warm. Your husband stares very carefully into his cup. You almost admire his technique. A few moments later, someone begins chanting for another song. The musicians oblige. Your mother leans toward your aunt. You hear the words, "Quite enough." Your aunt says they are only celebrating. Your mother replies, "They can celebrate more quietly." This may be the first known attempt to make a medieval wedding quiet. It fails. A servant brings mulled ale. Steam rises from the jug. The drink has been warmed with spices, perhaps a little honey, and you accept a cup because your fingers are cold again, despite the fire. The warmth helps. The smell of cinnamon is comforting. The next joke is not. A cousin of your husband asks whether the bedchamber has been prepared. Someone answers that it has. Your grip tightens around the cup. There it is. The word everyone has been circling all evening. Bedchamber. It should be an ordinary word. You have slept in chambers all your life. But tonight, it carries an entire ceremony behind it. Your cousin comes closer under the excuse of rearranging a fold in your sleeve. "Do not listen to them," she whispers. You look at her. They listened when it was their turn. That does not help as much as she thinks. She knows this. Her mouth twitches. Then listen only to the sensible ones. Which are? She looks around the hall. That may be difficult. You nearly laugh into your ale. The humor loosens your chest for a moment. Then another song begins. Outside, the wind presses against the shutters. Somewhere beyond the hall, monastery bells mark the hour. Their deep notes reach you faintly through stone and timber. You count them automatically. The night is moving onward. You cannot ask it to slow. Servants begin clearing the lower tables. Not all guests are leaving, but the feast is shifting from meal to celebration. Men stand to stretch their legs. A few women move closer to the fire. The musicians are given more space. The household dog appears again, carrying something in its mouth. At first, you think it is a bone. Then you realize it has stolen one of the decorative ribbons from a bench. A servant chases it. The dog accelerates. For several glorious seconds, half the hall watches a grown man pursue a ribbon-bearing dog around a trestle table. Even your father laughs. You laugh too. And for that brief moment, nobody is watching you. You are grateful to the dog in a way you cannot properly express. Some swear that laughter at a wedding drives away ill luck. Others say noise itself can frighten off harmful spirits, which may be one reason bells music shouting and boisterous processions appear around marriage celebrations in many places and periods. No one can quite agree whether such customs are truly protective, merely traditional, or simply very convenient excuses for making noise. If spirits are frightened by your uncle's singing, you cannot blame them. The dog is eventually caught. The ribbon is recovered. The musicians resume. Then your husband's aunt approaches you with a small cup in her hand. She is a narrow-faced woman with calm eyes and a silver pin at her veil. Until now she has said little. She bends slightly toward you. You are tired. You nod. She glances toward the men. They will make more noise before they make less. There is kindness in her voice. You did not expect that. She tells you that the women have prepared the upper chamber. Fresh linen has been laid. A brazier has warmed the room. The bedding has been checked. There are candles, a basin, a jug of water, perhaps herbs as well. You are not certain whether this comforts you or makes the whole thing more real. Fresh bedding on an ordinary evening would be luxurious. Tonight, it feels like evidence. She touches your hand briefly. You need not fear every story people tell at feasts. You look at her. What should I fear? She considers this. The ones told seriously. Then she moves away. It is the most reassuring answer anyone has given you. At the lower end of the hall, a group begins another round of toasts. Your name is called. Then your husband's. Cups lift. You smile because everyone expects you to. The hall answers with cheers. The candles throw long shadows against the walls. Wax runs down their sides. Fresh rushes have become crushed beneath hundreds of feet. Bones, nutshells, crumbs and drops of ale collect in corners despite the servants' best efforts. The room is no longer the orderly place you entered after church. It is warm, crowded, human, and increasingly unwilling to pretend marriage is only about contracts and mass. One married woman begins telling you that a bride should never remove one shoe before the other. Another says the opposite. A third insists a bride should keep a coin beneath the mattress. Why? For prosperity. Does it work? She pauses. My husband is still poor. You finally laugh. She does too. Superstition apparently survives disappointing results rather well. Your husband leans toward you once the women move away. You are all right. The question is quiet enough that only you hear it. You look at him. You could say yes. It would be simpler. Instead, you say, I am afraid. His expression changes, not dramatically, just enough. So am I. The hall continues roaring around you. You had not expected that answer. You look down at your ring. His hand rests on the table nearby. For several breaths, neither of you speaks. Something between you becomes easier. Not trust. Not yet. But perhaps the beginning of honesty. Then your uncle strikes the table with his palm and demands another song. The moment breaks. Your husband sighs. You say, perhaps we should fear him instead. He laughs softly. The night has grown deep now. Servants bring torches into the hall. The fire snaps loudly. Someone announces that the chamber is ready. You feel every muscle in your body tighten. Conversation shifts at once. The older women exchange looks. The younger married guests begin smiling. Your mother stands. Your cousin comes to your side. Your husband's relatives gather near him. There is no pretending anymore. The feast has reached the ritual you have dreaded since dawn. Somewhere above you waits an oak door, fresh linen, candlelight, a bed surrounded by custom, expectation, prayer, gossip, and centuries of people believing that newlyweds should not simply be allowed to walk upstairs unnoticed. You rise. Your knees feel unsteady. Your husband rises beside you. The musicians lower their instruments. The hall does not become silent, but its attention narrows. You feel it settle upon your shoulders like another cloak. Your mother takes one hand. Your cousin takes the other. Beyond the hall, the passage towards the stairs is lit by torches. The flames move in the draught. You glance once toward the dog. It has fallen asleep. beneath a bench entirely unconcerned. You envy it. Then the first relatives begin moving toward the corridor. The songs fade behind you, and with slow steps, surrounded by more witnesses than any private moment should reasonably require, you begin the walk toward the bedchamber. The corridor beyond the hall feels colder than the room you have just left. Behind you, music and laughter remain trapped beneath the rafters, muffled now by thick walls and the closing door. Ahead, torchlight moves across stone in long, wavering bands. The flames hiss whenever a draught slips through an arrow slit, and shadows stretch over the stairway like dark fingers. Your mother keeps hold of one hand. Your cousin keeps the other. This arrangement would be comforting if half the wedding party were not following behind you. Your husband walks several steps back among his relatives, surrounded by men who are offering advice with the enthusiasm of people who will not have to follow any of it. You cannot hear every word. You are grateful. The stone steps curve upward. Your boots scrape against worn edges polished by generations of feet. Somewhere within the wall, wind whistles through a narrow opening. You smell torch smoke, damp wool, hot wax, and the faint sweetness of dried herbs carried from the chamber above. The dog tries to follow. A servant catches it halfway up the stairs. The animal protests. Apparently, even it understands that the evening has reached an important destination. For a medieval bride, reaching the bedchamber may not mean slipping quietly away from the feast with your new husband. Depending on time, place, rank, and custom, relatives or attendants might accompany the couple, prepare the bed, offer blessings, remove outer clothing, sing, joke, or witness enough of the ritual to satisfy everyone that the marriage has properly entered its next stage. No one can quite agree how widespread the more elaborate bedding ceremonies are across every part of medieval Europe. Customs vary, but the idea that a marriage belongs partly to the community remains stubbornly strong. Privacy is a luxury. Tonight, you understand that very clearly. You reach the upper passage. A row of iron hooks supports spare torches along one wall. The floor is covered with older rushes than those below. They crunch beneath boots and smell of dried mint and smoke. A servant stands outside the chamber. She opens the oak door. Warmth reaches you first. Not much warmth, but enough. A brazier glows near the wall, filled with charcoal. Heavy bed curtains hang around a wide wooden frame. The linens look fresh. Wool blankets have been folded neatly over the mattress, and a fur cover rests near the foot. 2 beeswax candles burn on a small table. Beside them sit a basin, a jug of water, and a cup of watered wine. Someone has placed rosemary beneath the pillow. Of course they have. At this point, the herb has participated in your marriage more actively than some relatives. Your mother leads you inside. Several women follow. Your cousin closes the shutters carefully. Another woman checks the brazier. A third rearranges the blankets, despite the fact that nothing appears wrong with them. Preparations matter. Beds are valuable household objects, especially among wealthier families. They may include wooden frames, ropes, or supports beneath the mattress feather, or wool-filled bedding, curtains for warmth and privacy, linen, sheets, blankets, and sometimes fur coverings. In a cold stone building, curtains are not merely decoration. They help create a smaller pocket of warmth around sleeping bodies. Tonight, the chamber has been prepared as carefully as the feast. Fresh rushes, clean linen, candles, warm water. Your aunt enters carrying yet another object. You brace yourself. It is a small wooden cross. She places it beside the bed. For blessing. Your cousin whispers, "At least it is not another horseshoe." You cough to hide a laugh. Your mother hears. She gives both of you a look. The laughter dies immediately. Then one of the older women begins a prayer. Everyone quiets. You stand near the bed. While words are spoken over the room, the marriage, your health, your husband's health, future children, prosperity, peace, and the hope that your household will remain protected from misfortune. It is a great deal to ask from one prayer. Yet no one seems embarrassed by the ambition. In this world, the bedchamber is more than a place for sleep. It is where illness is endured, where children may be conceived and born, where the dying are sometimes attended, where family futures can be decided without witnesses, even though rather inconveniently, everyone remains interested in the outcome. Some swear that certain herbs placed beneath a bridal pillow encourage fertility or peaceful sleep. Others recommend charms, relics, blessed objects, or pieces of clothing arranged in particular ways. Your aunt apparently believes the room should contain enough protection to withstand a siege by every evil force in Christendom. The prayer ends. Your mother touches your face. For several heartbeats, the chamber becomes quiet. She looks at you, not as a bride, but as the daughter who once slept beside her during storms. You are warm enough. It is such an ordinary question that you almost cry. Yes, she adjusts your sleeve. You should eat more tomorrow. You nod. That is your mother's way of saying many things she cannot say aloud. Then the outer garments begin to come away. Not all of them. Nothing here becomes indecent. But cloak belt, heavier sleeves, jewelry, and ceremonial layers are removed with the help of the women around you. Your brooch is placed carefully on the table. The piece of iron hidden beneath your cloak drops onto the floor. It lands with a small clang. Everyone looks down. Your cousin picks it up. You survived the journey. Your aunt says, then it worked. There is no arguing with logic like this. The iron is placed beside the rosemary. You sit at the edge of the bed. The mattress shifts beneath you. It is softer than the one in your childhood chamber. That should be pleasant. Instead, the unfamiliarity makes your chest tighten again. Your husband still waits outside. You can hear male voices in the corridor, a burst of laughter. Then your father's deeper voice telling someone to lower theirs. Your mother glances toward the door. She knows what you hear. So many fools, she murmurs. You stare at her. It is the closest thing to a joke she has made all day. Then she smiles, only slightly. The women finish arranging the room. One pours a little wine. Another checks the shutters again. A servant adds charcoal to the brazier. The candles burn steadily. Those who tell the tale never fully agree on what exact words mothers give daughters on wedding nights. Perhaps some offer practical advice. Perhaps some speak of duty. Perhaps some offer reassurance. Perhaps silence does most of the work. Your mother bends close. You do not need to know everything tonight. The sentence is quiet, simple. It settles something inside you. Not entirely, but enough. The door opens. Your husband enters with several male relatives. He has removed his cloak and sword belt. He looks uncomfortable beneath the attention, which makes you feel strangely better. Someone makes a joke. Your father tells him to stop. Another relative raises a cup and offers a blessing. The room fills with laughter again. The bed meanwhile sits at the center of everything. You understand why brides fear this walk? Not simply because of what happens after the door closes, because before it closes, everyone insists on standing near it. Marriage has followed you from contract chest to church porch, from altar to feast, and now all the way into the most private room in the household. The community wants certainty. Families want heirs. Custom wants ceremony. Religion wants blessing. Gossip wants material. You would prefer a quiet cup of ale. Unfortunately, history rarely organizes itself around your preferences. One by one, however, the relatives finally begin to leave. Your aunt kisses your forehead. Your cousin squeezes your hand. Your mother pauses longest. Then she steps through the doorway. Your father follows. Voices fade into the corridor. Your husband's last uncle offers one more piece of advice nobody asked for. The door begins to close. Torchlight narrows to a thin, golden line. Then the oak meets the frame. The iron latch drops. For the first time since dawn, the room becomes truly quiet. You hear only the brazier, the wind beyond the shutters, your own breathing, and the faint, distant noise of the wedding feast below. You look toward your husband. He looks toward you. Between you stands no priest, no parent, no cousin, no witness, only candlelight, a half-warm chamber, a bed surrounded by rosemary and superstition, and two people who, despite everything decided around them, must now discover what this marriage means when everyone else finally leaves. For several breaths, neither of you moves. The silence behind the closed oak door feels almost unnatural after a day spent inside bells, prayers, music, footsteps, clattering dishes, whispered advice, and relatives who have treated your wedding as though it were a public festival arranged specifically to prevent you from ever being alone. Now the chamber is still, almost. Below, someone begins singing again. The words come faintly through the floorboards. Your husband listens, so they have not stopped. No, they may never stop. You look at him. For the first time all day, you laugh without checking who might be watching. The sound is small, but it changes the room. The bed curtains no longer seem quite so imposing. The brazier glows near the wall, turning slowly from orange to red. One of the beeswax candles has developed a pool of melted wax around its wick. The flame reflects against the metal basin beside it. Outside the shutters, winter wind moves along the stone wall. The chamber smells of warm linen, charcoal, rosemary, and the lingering smoke carried in on your clothing from the hall. Your husband walks towards the table. He pours a little wine into one cup, then hesitates. There is only one. You glance at the cup. Another triumph of household planning. He smiles. The cup is passed between you. You drink first. The wine is watered and mildly spiced, warm enough from the room to soften the cold in your throat. When you hand it back, his fingers brush yours. Earlier at the church door, this would have felt enormous. Now it feels merely human. He sits on the wooden stool beside the brazier rather than coming immediately toward the bed. You are grateful. The relief is so sudden that you nearly feel ashamed of it. But fear has accompanied you since before dawn. It sat beside the oil lamp while your mother dressed you. It walked with you through the mud. It knelt beside you beneath the painted saints. It watched from the high table during the feast. And it climbed every stair towards this room. You cannot simply dismiss it because an iron latch has fallen. Your husband studies the brazier. Then he says quietly, "You told me downstairs that you were afraid." You nod. "So was I." You said that. "I meant it." The words matter more now. You sit with your hands folded in your lap. What were you afraid of? He considers the question longer than you expect. My father. You almost smile, but his face is serious. The household. The land. Being told I should know how to manage things I have never managed. Being expected to become someone different because a priest said a few words. He looks toward you. And you. That answer surprises you. Me, I hardly know you. There is no cruelty in it, only fact. You look down at the ring on your finger. That makes two of us. Again, the room becomes quiet. Some medieval marriages begin between people who have known one another since childhood. Others join households from neighboring regions whose members have met many times. But arrangements made for property politics, inheritance, or kinship may also bring together spouses who know one another only slightly. The ceremony can therefore create a legal and sacred bond faster than familiarity can create trust. Trust has to arrive more slowly, if it arrives at all. No one can quite agree how many medieval couples grow into genuine affection after arranged marriages because surviving records rarely preserve the ordinary private feelings of people who never became famous enough for chroniclers to care about them. Letters occasionally reveal tenderness. Wills may show attachment. Household arrangements can hint at cooperation, but countless quiet marriages disappear almost completely from the record. You think of that now. Two people sitting beside a brazier would leave little evidence. A clerk records property. A priest records marriage. Nobody records the long silence between two frightened strangers deciding whether to be kind. Your husband reaches towards the brazier and adjusts the charcoal with an iron poker. A few sparks rise. "Your aunt frightened me," he says. You blink. "Which one?" "The one with the herbs." You laugh again. "She frightens everyone. She told me rosemary beneath the pillow prevents betrayal." "That is not what she told me." "What did she tell you?" "That it preserves memory." He looks at the bed. "Perhaps we are expected to remember not to betray one another." You consider this. It is efficient. Medieval remedies and charms often combine practical uses with symbolic ones. Rosemary may scent a room appear in medicinal preparations or accumulate meanings connected with memory, fidelity, protection, and celebration over long periods. People do not always separate medicine, religion, custom, and superstition as neatly as later scholars might prefer. A herb can smell pleasant and protect a marriage at the same time. Why demand that it choose? Your husband finally moves closer, not too close. He sits at the far end of the bed. The mattress dips. Your shoulders stiffen before you can prevent it. He notices. Then he stops. "I will not hurry you." The words are spoken plainly. You look at him. All day, other people have told you what will happen, where to stand, what to wear, what to say, when to walk, when to kneel, how to smile, which prayers to repeat, which herbs to carry. which omens not to notice. This may be the first time someone has said that you may move slowly. You take a breath. Then another. Thank you. Below, laughter bursts through the floorboards. Someone cheers. Your husband groans. If that is my cousin, I may send him to sleep in the stable. The horse may object. That is his problem. The joke is small, sleepy, almost ordinary. And that is exactly what you need. You look around the room again. The chamber is far less mysterious now that no one else is inside it. There is a wooden chest against the wall, a pitcher, a stool, the little cross your aunt left near the bed, the piece of iron from your cloak, the rosemary beneath the pillow, a wool blanket folded at the foot. Objects, nothing more. You reach for the blanket and pull it around your shoulders. The wool is soft from years of use. Your husband takes the other edge and wraps it around himself. Now you sit beneath one blanket, separated by the careful space of two people, still learning the boundaries of the other. The wind presses softly against the shutters. You speak for a long while, not about marriage, not at first. You tell him about the dog. He tells you about a mare at his father's manor that refuses to cross bridges. You describe the monk from the nearby priory who once claimed a relic could cure toothache but seemed unwilling to try it on himself. He laughs. He tells you that one of his household servants believes sleeping with a hazelnut beneath the pillow prevents nightmares. Does it? No. How do you know? He has nightmares about losing the hazelnut. You laugh quietly enough that the people below cannot possibly hear. The conversation wanders. Market days, winter roads, a mill that floods every spring, a cook in his household who puts too much sage into everything. You begin gathering pieces of him that no marriage negotiation could contain. His dislike of deep water, his fondness for hawking, his worry about disappointing his father, the way he rubs the scar on his knuckle when thinking. In return, you tell him things your father never placed in the contract. That you hate the smell of boiled turnips, that you like watching scribes work because the scratching of quills calms you, that you once stole honey from the pantry and blamed your cousin. She knows, he says. You stare. How? Everyone knows. You cover your face. So much for preserving one's dignity on a wedding night. Some swear that marriages are built in moments of grand devotion. Perhaps some are, but you begin to suspect others are built from smaller things. Shared embarrassment, a cup passed between hands, the discovery that both people dislike the same relative. The willingness to sit quietly instead of demanding certainty. Eventually, the singing below becomes quieter. The hall is settling. Servants will be clearing tables, covering embers, gathering cups, and carrying sleeping guests toward benches, pallets, and spare chambers. The household rhythm slows. Your husband stands and checks the shutters. You remove the saint's thread from your wrist and place it beside the candle. The skin beneath it bears a faint red mark. You look at the little strip of thread for a moment. All day, people have tried to protect you from the unknown. But perhaps the greatest comfort is not a charm. It is the knowledge that the person sharing the room may also be uncertain. Those who tell the tale never fully agree about what happens behind every medieval bridal chamber door, and much of what later generations imagine is colored by stories, customs, moral warnings, and exaggeration. The quieter truth is likely more varied. Some brides are frightened, some hopeful, some exhausted, some already fond of their husbands, some almost strangers. Some lie awake listening to wind against unfamiliar shutters and wondering whether morning will feel different. Tonight you are simply tired. Your husband lowers the bed curtain on one side. The fabric traps a little more warmth. You settle beneath the blankets. There is no sudden transformation, no magical moment when fear vanishes. It fades instead by degrees, from terror into caution, from caution into uncertainty, from uncertainty into something almost peaceful. The candle burns lower. Your husband lies beside you, leaving space between you. Outside, the monastery bell begins to mark another hour. You count the slow notes. The same bell you heard before dawn, the same bell that followed you through the morning. You close your eyes. For the first time since waking, nobody expects you to perform anything. No smile, no vow, no bow, no careful step, only rest. And behind the heavy oak door, with rosemary beneath the pillow and the last sounds of the feast fading into the stone, you begin to understand that the thing you feared most was never simply the room. It was not knowing who would be waiting inside it. Morning arrives before you are ready for it. At first, there is only darkness behind the bed curtains, warm breath beneath wool blankets, and the faint orange glow of dying charcoal somewhere beyond the fabric. Then a bell begins to sound, slow, measured, familiar. You open your eyes. For several seconds, you do not remember where you are. The mattress is softer than the one in your childhood chamber. The linen smells different. The wooden frame creaks when you move, and somewhere near your shoulder there is the sharp scent of crushed rosemary. Then memory returns. The church, the feast, the stairs, the oak door, your husband sleeping beside you. And suddenly you become aware of something even less comforting. The household is awake. Footsteps cross the passage outside. A bucket scrapes against stone. Someone whispers. Another person whispers back. Then both voices disappear quickly when a third approaches. You stare at the bed curtain. Nothing about those footsteps is unusual. Servants rise early in every household. Fires must be rebuilt from embers. Water must be carried. Bread must be cut. Animals must be fed. Ash must be swept from hearths. But this morning, every ordinary sound seems suspicious. Because you know people are thinking about you. Your husband wakes. He looks toward the curtain. Is that your aunt outside? You listen. A woman clears her throat in the corridor. Yes. How long has she been there? You do not know. Perhaps 5 minutes. Perhaps since midnight. With your aunt, either is possible. You sit up slowly. Cold air enters beneath the blankets. Your husband reaches for the fur cover and hands it to you. For a moment, neither of you speaks. Then someone knocks. Not loudly. 3 neat taps. Your husband sighs. You may answer. You stare at him. It is my family. Exactly. You nearly laugh. Another knock comes. This one belongs unmistakably to your mother. You pull the blanket around your shoulders and say, "Come." The iron latch lifts. The door opens. Morning pours in with several women. Your mother enters first. Your cousin follows. Then your aunt. Then a servant carrying warm water. Then another carrying fresh clothing. Privacy apparently has ended with sunrise.
The dog slips through everyone's legs.
Of course it does. It trots directly toward the bed and places its front paws against the mattress. You stroke its head. The animal examines you carefully, decides marriage has not killed you, and seems satisfied. Your aunt looks around the chamber. Her gaze moves over the brazier, the extinguished candle, the wine cup, the blanket, and finally you. You immediately understand what she is doing. She is collecting information, not necessarily because she is cruel, because households survive on information almost as much as grain. Who is ill? Who is angry? Who owes money? Who visited whom? Who slept poorly? Who seems pleased? Who seems frightened? Marriage creates a new relationship between families, and everyone wants reassurance that it has begun properly. Your mother, at least, is kinder. You slept. A little. She nods. Your cousin glances at your husband. He has wisely decided to concentrate on fastening his shirt. Your aunt asks, and everything is well. The question is vague, deliberately vague. You know exactly what she means. Your face grows warm. Yes, that single word seems to satisfy her. Mostly. Some medieval communities care greatly about whether a marriage has been physically completed, particularly when inheritance, legitimacy, political alliance, or possible annulment might later depend upon it. Yet popular stories sometimes exaggerate how openly every household investigates private details. Custom varies enormously. Rank matters. Region matters. Family matters. And no one can quite agree how much of what later writers describe reflects ordinary practice rather than unusual ceremonies that were memorable precisely because they were unusual. For you, the scrutiny is enough. No inspection is necessary. A raised eyebrow can accomplish remarkable damage. Your cousin rescues you. She needs food. Your mother agrees immediately. This is the universal solution to family discomfort. Pottage. A servant brings a small wooden bowl. Steam rises from oats cooked with milk and a little honey. You accept it gratefully. Breakfast is plain compared with last night's feast, but after hours of nerves and too little eating, it tastes better than roasted capon ever did. Your husband is handed coarse bread and ale. He looks at the bread, then at you. Back to ordinary life. You nod. Apparently, marriage does not exempt anyone from breakfast. Your mother begins folding your discarded clothing. Your aunt notices the piece of iron still lying near the bed. She picks it up. It served you well. Your cousin mutters, "Excellent work," by the iron. You almost choke on your pottage. Your mother gives her the familiar warning look. The dog receives a piece of bread from your husband. You notice this. So does the dog. A friendship is formed immediately. By the time you finish eating, the chamber has become a working room again. The mystical wedding night has vanished beneath basins, clothes ash, and servants opening shutters. Cold grey light enters. Outside frost covers the courtyard roofs. You can hear men moving near the stables. A cart creaks. Someone calls for firewood. Yesterday everything felt ceremonial. Today life has remembered its chores, yet the whispers continue. When you step into the passage, two servants coming from the stairs fall silent. They bow. You pass them. Their conversation resumes only after you turn the corner. You know better than to be offended. Servants notice everything. They know which lord drinks too much, which lady hides coins in a linen chest, which visitor snores, Which marriage begins with smiles? Which begins with doors slammed after midnight? In a great household, walls are thick, but secrecy can be surprisingly thin. You descend toward the hall. The stairs are littered with evidence of the night before. A crushed rush, a ribbon, wax dripped onto stone, one abandoned cup resting on a windowsill. Below servants are already dismantling the feast. Trestle tables have been moved. Bones are collected into baskets. Used trenchers are gathered. Rushes are being swept and turned. The great fire is smaller now, though fresh logs have been added for morning warmth. Your uncle sleeps on a bench near the wall. One boot is missing. Nobody knows where it is. Some swear that waking after a wedding feast without both shoes is proof of excellent hospitality. Your mother says it is proof of poor judgment. You suspect both can be true. Your father stands near the hearth, speaking with your husband's father. They stop when you enter. Again you feel the gaze. Your father looks at you carefully. Then his shoulders ease. He says nothing embarrassing. For this you could embrace him. Your husband joins you a moment later. His father claps him on the shoulder. Your husband endures it. You suddenly recognize the same discomfort in him that you feel. He is being examined too. Perhaps not in quite the same way, but watched, judged, measured against expectation. Marriage has made both of you public property for the morning. A servant offers warm ale. You take a cup. The heat spreads through your fingers. The same brown dog curls near your feet. Your cousin sits beside you on the bench. Well, you look at her. She smiles. Then, seeing your expression, she changes the question. Did you sleep at all? A little. That is more useful. You smile. Outside the monastery bell sounds another hour. Daylight has fully reached the windows now. Guests begin to stir. Some prepare to leave. Others search for cloaks. One man searches for your uncle's missing boot and discovers it beneath a table. A minor miracle. Your wedding day is already becoming a story people will tell. Someone will remember the songs, someone the feast, someone the muddy road, someone the dog stealing the ribbon. Someone will claim the candle nearly went out in church. Someone else will insist it burned brighter than any candle they had ever seen. Those who tell the tale never fully agree. But you understand now how quickly reputation begins. Not from grand events alone, from looks, whispers, whether you appear happy at breakfast, whether your husband sits near you, whether your mother seems relieved, whether servants carry away rumors along with empty cups. Yesterday, you feared the wedding because you did not know what waited behind the church door or the bedchamber door. This morning, another fear becomes clearer. Marriage does not become private after the vows. People continue watching, and from those observations, however small or mistaken, a new identity begins to form around you. Not daughter, not maiden, wife. You wrap both hands around the warm cup and listen to the hall awaken around you. For now you are still beneath your father's roof, still close to your mother, still hearing the same old bells. But already everyone looks at you as though you belong partly somewhere else. By late morning the manor yard has changed again. The remains of the feast are disappearing indoors, while outside the practical work of departure has taken their place. Horses are saddled beneath a pale winter sky. Leather straps are tightened. Blankets are rolled behind saddles. The iron-bound chests that were packed yesterday now stand beside the cart. their surfaces dark with damp and their corners scuffed from being carried down the steps. This time they are truly leaving with you. You stand beneath the gatehouse arch wrapped in your fur-lined cloak and watch two servants wrestle the largest chest onto the cart. The repaired wheel groans. Everyone looks at it. The wheel holds. Your uncle nods as though he personally invented carpentry. The dog circles the cart 3 times, increasingly anxious. You try not to watch it. Leaving for church yesterday frightened you, but you always knew you would return for the feast. Today is different. Today the road does not curve back toward your childhood chamber before sunset. Your husband's family lives several hours away, beyond the wooded ridge and across a shallow river. In good weather the journey is ordinary enough. Winter rarely cares about ordinary. Frost whitens the fields. Mud waits beneath it. The forest road is shaded and slow. There are stretches where wagon wheels sink deeply enough that travelers begin reconsidering every possession they thought necessary before departure. Your mother approaches carrying a folded wool blanket. You will need this. You already have 2 blankets packed. You accept it anyway. She adjusts your cloak, then your veil, then the clasp at your throat, then the same clasp again. Neither of you mentions that there is nothing left to adjust. Your father stands a few paces away with your husband. They speak quietly about the road, a bridge, and the possibility of stopping near a priory if weather worsens. Practical matters. Men often become remarkably interested in roads when saying goodbye would be more difficult. Your younger sister hugs you first. Then your cousin. Your aunt presses another sprig of rosemary into your hand. You stare at it. She says, "For the journey." At this rate, you expect to arrive at your new home disguised as a herb garden. Still, you tuck it into your cloak. Travelers carry all manner of small protections. A pilgrim badge may be pinned to a cloak. A cross may hang from a cord. Some keep blessed objects close. Others trust herbs, prayers, or habits taught by parents. Some swear that a traveler should never begin an important journey after hearing an owl call from the left. Nobody has heard an owl. Your aunt listens anyway. The monastery bell sounds across the fields. The same bell. You freeze. For most of your life, its voice has simply meant time, prayer, work, meals. Now it means distance. Soon you will be too far away to hear it. Your mother takes your face between both hands. Her fingers are cold. For a moment you are a child again, standing in this courtyard after falling into a ditch or waking from fever while she checks your forehead. Then she kisses you. No speech, no grand blessing, just that. You turn away before your eyes betray you. The dog follows when you approach your horse. A servant catches its collar. You look down. It strains toward you. No, the word comes out softer than you intend. The dog whines. Your husband watches but says nothing. You touch the animal's head once. Then you mount. The courtyard suddenly seems smaller from horseback. Your father raises one hand. Your mother stands beneath the arch. The cart begins moving. The repaired wheel creaks. You ride through the gate. For several minutes you refuse to look back. When you finally do, the manor is still visible. Your mother is still standing there. Then the road bends. The wall disappears. Something inside you seems to remain behind it. Marriage can mean leaving more than parents. A bride may leave familiar servants, parish neighbors, fields, market routes, local saints' shrines, household routines, and the small knowledge accumulated over years. You know which stair creaks at home, which kitchen maid sings while kneading bread, which tenant brings apples every autumn, which patch of the roof leaks, which priest speaks too long on feast days. At your husband's home, you will know none of these things. For now, however, there is only the road. The procession moves slowly through frost-covered fields. Your husband rides beside you. The cart follows behind with 2 servants walking near its wheels. Your father has sent several men as escort, though some will return before nightfall. The dog does not appear. You tell yourself, this is good. Your husband breaks the silence. My home has dogs. You look at him. How many, he thinks. Too many. That is unexpectedly comforting. The fields narrow as the forest approaches. Bare branches meet above the track. Leaf litter lies frozen beneath the trees, and old snow survives in patches where sunlight never reaches. The sound of hooves changes here. Softer, closer, more enclosed. You pull the cloak around your knees. The forest smells of damp bark, moss horses and cold earth. A roadside cross appears between 2 trees. Someone has tied strips of faded cloth around its base. A small heap of stones rests nearby, perhaps left by travellers. Your husband makes the sign of the cross. You do the same. No one can quite agree whether every roadside custom begins in formal devotion, older folk belief, or simply repetition until nobody remembers the difference. Travellers rarely require certainty, only reassurance. Farther ahead, a pilgrim road joins yours. 2 men wearing badges walk in single file, staffs tapping against frozen ground. One steps aside to let your party pass. You recognize the shape of his badge as possibly belonging to a shrine farther north. Possibly. Medieval souvenirs are rarely supplied with authentication certificates. He bows. Safe road. You thank him. Those words remain with you. Safe road. Not happy marriage. Not prosperous household. Not many sons. Only safe road. For the moment, that seems enough. Near midday clouds gather. The frost softens. Mud begins clinging to the cart wheels. The repaired wheel complains more loudly. You stop near a small stream where travellers have built a crude shelter from timber and brush. A servant unwraps coarse bread and smoked fish. Your husband shares a piece of cheese with you. You eat sitting on a fallen log while horses drink nearby. The food is plain. The quiet is welcome. For the first time since leaving, nobody watches to see whether you look like a proper bride. You are simply cold and hungry beside a road. Your husband rubs his hands together. You are regretting the wedding. You look at him. The road. He nods. Good. I was worried it was me. You remain under examination. Fair. You almost smile. Then a distant bell reaches through the trees. Not your monastery bell. Another one. Fainter. Unknown. Your husband turns his head. The priory. It lies somewhere beyond the ridge. That sound unsettles you more than silence would. Another bell. Another rhythm. Another place where people already know when to rise, pray, eat, and sleep without needing you. You resume the journey. The road climbs. From the ridge, you see new country unfolding beneath the winter sky. Fields divided by hedges. A cluster of cottages. Smoke rising from roofs. A narrow river reflecting dull silver. Beyond it, on slightly higher ground, stands your husband's home, not enormous, not mythical. A fortified manor with a stone-hall timber buildings, a small chapel, and walls enclosing the yard. Smoke rises from its kitchen. Tiny figures move near the gate. You stop looking at the road. Your husband notices. There, you nod. The word refuses to come. That is where you will sleep tonight, where unfamiliar servants will know your name before you know theirs, where someone else currently carries the pantry keys, where another woman knows which chimney smokes badly and which storehouse door swells after rain, where you must somehow become ordinary. The cart creaks behind you. Your chests follow. Linen, blankets, clothes, cups, everything that could be counted and packed. But as you begin descending toward the river, you understand how much was left behind because it could not be packed at all. The old bell, your mother's hands, the smell of your childhood hearth, the dog sleeping beneath the high table, the exact sound of home in the hour before dawn. You cross the bridge slowly. Water moves beneath you, dark and cold. Then your horse reaches the opposite bank. Your husband's household waits ahead, and with each quiet hoofbeat toward its gate, the familiar world recedes a little further behind you. The gate opens before your horse reaches it. Two servants hurry forward through the muddy yard, one carrying a lantern, though there is still enough grey afternoon light to see without it. Behind them, a stable boy takes hold of your husband's reins, while another man waves the cart toward a covered shed where your chests can be unloaded. You remain mounted for one breath longer than necessary. This is the first time you see the place not as a destination on a distant hill, but as the household where you are expected to live. The walls are lower than those of your father's manor. The hall is longer. A small chapel stands near the eastern wall, its roof dark with damp. Smoke drifts from several chimneys, and beside the kitchen building 2 women are plucking birds over a wooden tub. Dogs bark somewhere near the stable. Your husband was not exaggerating. There are many of them. One large grey hound approaches, sniffs your boot, and apparently decides that you are acceptable. Your husband dismounts. He approves. I am relieved. He dislikes my uncle. Then he may be wise. Your husband smiles. A servant helps you down. Mud takes your boot immediately. So begins your rule as mistress of the household. With one wet foot, a woman approaches from the hall. She is perhaps twice your age, dressed plainly, but well with an iron ring of keys hanging from her belt. You notice the keys before almost anything else. They are not decorative. One opens the pantry, another the linen chest, another perhaps the winter storehouse. There will be keys for cupboards, boxes, doors, medicines, spices, precious vessels, and stores of food that must last until spring. The woman bows. She introduces herself as Agnes the housekeeper, who has served your husband's family since before he remembers. You already understand that Agnes knows more about this place than you could learn in a year. Where the best linen is kept, which servant works hard, which servant pretends to, how much flour remains, which hens are laying, how many candles can be used without upsetting the steward, which roof leaks, which neighbour still owes 2 sacks of oats. If you are wise, you will not arrive and begin giving Agnes enthusiastic instructions. Medieval households, like horses, tend to react badly when strangers pull too hard on the reins. She leads you inside. Warmth reaches you through the door. The hall smells of oak smoke, damp wool onions, old rushes, and something simmering in a large pot near the kitchen passage. Not feast food, ordinary food, pottage. You nearly feel relieved. The great wedding spectacle has finally released you into the comforting world of boiled peas. Servants line part of the hall. Your husband names them: Thomas, Edith, Martin, Alice, a cook called Hugh, a steward named Robert, a laundress, 2 stable servants, several young household workers whose names disappear from your memory almost before you hear them. Everyone knows yours. That feels unfair. You smile. You nod. You try to remember faces instead. One woman has red cheeks from the kitchen heat. One man has a crooked finger. Another servant has ink stains on his hands and is apparently responsible for accounts when the steward requires help. The household chaplain arrives last. He bows and welcomes you. Behind him a small bell hangs near the chapel passage. Another bell. Not the one from home. You expected that. It still hurts. The servants return to work. Agnes leads you towards the chamber prepared for your use. Your chests will be brought there, but she pauses first beside a pantry door. She selects one of the iron keys. The lock opens. Inside are shelves of food. Cheese, dried peas, salted meat, onions, small sacks of grain, a jar of honey, dried herbs hung from beams. She speaks quietly about what remains from winter. This is your first lesson. A household may appear comfortable in the hall while the pantry tells a more cautious story. Winter is not finished. The smoked fish must last. The grain must be measured. Fresh meat cannot be assumed. Butter is scarcer than in summer. Cheese has to be watched because servants, guests, mice, and husbands all seem to regard it as a personal invitation. Your husband standing behind you objects. I have never stolen cheese. Agnes does not turn around. You were 12. He becomes silent. You decide you like her. The keys at her belt make a soft iron sound as she walks. Someday, some of them may hang from yours. The thought is heavier than jewelry. Managing a medieval household can demand an exhausting variety of tasks from a married woman, especially one of middling or higher status. She may oversee food stores, linen servants, textile production, hospitality, charity household medicine, poultry dairy work, and sometimes estate matters during her husband's absence. Not every woman performs every duty. Rank, wealth, region, custom, and personality change everything. But marriage rarely means spending your days sitting beside a window while minstrels sing. There are inventories to remember, people to feed, arguments to settle, and enough missing spoons to test anyone's faith. Agnes brings you to the linen room. Chests stand against the wall. Blankets are folded carefully. Sheets hang over wooden rails to air. She lifts one wool blanket and points to a small damaged patch. Moths. A mixture of herbs has been tucked nearby in an attempt to discourage them. Lavender, wormwood, possibly tansy. Households use strong-smelling plants for many practical purposes, from freshening stored cloth to discouraging insects, though results are rarely miraculous. Some swear that certain herbs protect fabric better if gathered on a particular saint's day. Others insist the only reliable cure for moths is vigilance. Agnes belongs to the second school. You suspect she considers saints excellent people but poor housekeepers. From there, you are shown the kitchen. The heat is almost shocking after the winter road. Soot blackens the rafters. A cook stirs pottage in an iron pot. Another servant chops leeks. Bundles of dried herbs hang above a table. Fish are suspended near the wall. A basket of coarse bread rests beneath a cloth. Nothing stops because the new bride has arrived. That is comforting too. The household does not wait for you to understand it. It continues. You must learn its pace. A young maid slices her finger lightly while working, not badly. Agnes immediately reaches for clean cloth. The laundress suggests honey. The cook suggests a crushed herb. Someone else suggests making the sign of the cross. Medieval household medicine often begins at home. Minor complaints may be treated with herbs, poultices, honey wine, fats, warming, preparations, or inherited recipes before anyone thinks of a physician. More serious illness may bring a barber, surgeon, healer, monk, or learned medical practitioner, depending on availability and wealth. Leeches are used for certain conditions under humoral theories that view health through balances within the body. Your husband whispers, "If I sneeze, Agnes tries to bleed me." Agnes hears him, only when necessary. He looks at you. This is my life. Your fear eases another small degree. You move onward. Near sunset, Agnes brings you into the household chapel. A beeswax candle burns before an image of the Virgin. Another candle, cheaper and smokier, burns near the door. The chaplain explains the household routine. Prayer. Mass on appropriate mornings. Feast days. Fasts. Almsgiving. Your responsibilities will include charity. Bread may be given to the poor at the gate. Leftover trenchers may be distributed. Pilgrims might request lodging. Widows and tenants may come seeking help. Hospitality is not simply generosity. It is part of reputation. A good household must be seen to behave like one. No one can quite agree whether every noble family gives charity from devotion, social expectation, fear for the soul, or a mixture of all three. Motives are rarely pure. Bread still feeds a hungry person. When you leave the chapel, darkness has settled. Torches burn in the courtyard. Your chests are now upstairs. The journey is finished, yet your new life has begun almost immediately. At supper, you sit beside your husband at a smaller table than last night's wedding feast. There is pottage, bread, cheese, a little smoked fish. Ale, no musicians, no cheering, no relatives demanding songs. You find the simplicity luxurious. Agnes tells the steward that another sack of oats must be moved because damp has reached the corner of the storehouse. The steward says he knows. Agnes says if he knew the oats would already be moved. You look at your husband. He continues eating as though this exchange occurs daily. Perhaps it does. Later, as servants clear the table, a tenant arrives at the hall door. His cloak is wet. His wife is ill. He asks whether the household has dried sage and perhaps a little honey to spare. Agnes glances toward you, only briefly. But you understand. This is no longer merely someone else's household decision. You look toward the pantry passage. Yes, you say. Give him what is needed. Agnes nods. The decision is tiny. Nobody applauds. No bell rings. Yet it feels more real than half the wedding ceremony. You have acted inside the household. not as daughter, not as guest, as its new lady. When you finally reach your chamber, the familiar chests stand along one wall. Your mother's blanket lies across the bed. You touch it. The wool smells faintly of home. Outside, the household settles. A stable door closes. Dogs bark once and then fall quiet. Somewhere below, Agnes locks the pantry. You hear the iron turn. One day, those keys may belong to you. You imagine their weight at your belt. Not romantic, not glamorous, but real. Your wedding fear does not disappear. It simply spreads into smaller, more manageable worries. Will you remember the servants' names? Will the grain last? Will Agnes respect you? Will your husband remain kind? Will you know what to do when someone falls ill? Will you learn which roof leaks before it rains into your bed? The questions are ordinary. That helps, because ordinary questions can be answered slowly. You pull your mother's wool blanket around your shoulders and sit beside the dying fire. Your husband enters a moment later carrying 2 cups of ale. He gives one to you. You survived the first tour. Barely. Tomorrow she shows you the dairy. You stare at him. There is more. There is always more. You laugh softly. Beyond the shutters, the new chapel bell marks the evening hour. You listen. It is not the bell from home, not yet familiar. But this time, instead of mourning the difference, you count the notes. 1, then another, slowly learning their rhythm. And in the quiet between them, you begin to understand that the greatest change brought by your wedding is not one frightening ceremony, one public feast, or one closed bedchamber door. It is this: waking tomorrow and beginning again, learning a new hearth, a new storehouse, a new set of keys, a new landscape, a new person beside you, until perhaps what feels strange tonight becomes the ordinary life you know by heart. The new bell wakes you before sunrise. For one confused moment, you expect the sound from your childhood monastery, the deeper bell rolling across familiar fields, the one you could almost count in your sleep. This one is sharper, closer. You open your eyes beneath the heavy wool blanket and remember the journey, the bridge, the unfamiliar gate, Agnes and her keys, the pantry, the chapel. Your husband sleeping quietly beside you. You remain still while the bell finishes. Outside, wind presses softly against the shutters. Somewhere below, a servant opens a door and immediately closes it again against the cold. A dog barks once in the courtyard. Then another answers. You smile in the darkness. There really are too many dogs. The fire has fallen low, but a few embers glow beneath ash. You slip from the bed, pull your mother's blanket around your shoulders and cross the chamber. The stone floor is bitterly cold. Marriage, apparently, has not improved medieval flooring. You kneel near the hearth and stir the embers with an iron poker. A small flame catches. Light trembles across the room. Your chests stand where the servants placed them yesterday. One is open now. Inside lie your folded linen spare gown, needles, ribbons, and the small objects that seemed so important when your mother packed them. You remember watching the household count everything: coins, blankets, animals, cloth, promises. At the time, it seemed as though your future could somehow be measured and secured if enough people wrote enough things on parchment. But now, sitting beside a new hearth, you understand how little the documents could predict. No contract, described the sound of your husband laughing when your aunt filled the bridal chamber with rosemary. No dowry list mentioned the way he handed you his half of the blanket when you were cold. No clerk could record whether he would notice fear in your face and choose patience. And no seal pressed into wax could promise that tomorrow would be gentle. That uncertainty is perhaps the deepest reason a medieval bride might fear her wedding day. The ceremony is only the doorway. Beyond it lies an entire unknown life. You hear movement behind you. Your husband wakes and sits up. You are already awake. The bell. You will stop noticing it eventually. You glance toward him. I used to think that about the bell at home. He understands. He does not tell you that this place is home now. For that, you are grateful. Some words need time before they become true. He pulls on a wool tunic and joins you near the hearth. Together you warm your hands above the weak flame. For several minutes, neither of you speaks. There is no need. Outside, dawn slowly turns the shutters grey. Soon Agnes will appear. The pantry will be opened. Pottage will be stirred. Animals fed. Water carried. The steward will worry about oats. Some servant will lose a key and insist another servant moved it. Life will continue with very little respect for the dramatic importance of yesterday. This may be one of marriage's quiet mercies. Even the most frightening day eventually becomes yesterday. You think back through it now. The cold chamber before dawn. Your mother fastening the brooch at your throat. The old dog lying beside the hearth. The iron-bound chest filled with marriage agreements. Rosemary, saints, a questionable relic. The muddy road. The church porch. The ring. The incense beneath painted saints. The feast. The songs growing louder after sunset. The staircase. The oak door. Each moment seemed enormous while you were inside it. Now they are already arranging themselves into memory. Those who tell the tale never fully agree on why medieval brides feared weddings. Some point to arranged marriages, some to the loss of the childhood household, some to the obligations placed upon wives, some to pregnancy and childbirth waiting in the possible future, some to property inheritance, reputation, and the watchful eyes of communities where private life is rarely completely private. All are part of it. But fear does not mean every marriage is miserable. That would be too simple. Surviving records offer glimpses of husbands and wives cooperating across decades, remembering one another in wills, exchanging affectionate letters, grieving deaths, sharing responsibilities, raising families, managing estates, enduring illness, surviving poor harvests, and growing old inside the same walls. Some marriages are harsh, some distant, some practical, some become partnerships, some become deeply affectionate, some probably move through all those states over many years. No one can quite agree how common tenderness is because tenderness often leaves no record. A husband placing extra wood on the fire for his wife does not require a charter. A woman saving the better piece of smoked fish for someone she loves does not summon a scribe. A shared joke beneath wool blankets leaves no wax seal. Ordinary affection is historically inconvenient. It disappears easily. You look toward your husband. He is trying to coax the fire into greater life. Smoke suddenly rolls back toward him. He coughs. You move aside. He continues poking at it. That is making it worse. I know what I am doing. Smoke fills his face again. You raise an eyebrow. He gives up. A strong marriage, you decide, may occasionally require allowing a husband to lose an argument with firewood. A knock sounds at the door. Agnes enters after permission is given. The keys are already hanging from her belt. She carries a smaller ring of iron keys in one hand. Your stomach tightens. These, she says, are for the linen chest, the smaller pantry cupboard, and the herb store. You stare at them. She offers them to you. Not all the household keys. Not yet. A beginning. You take them. They are heavier than they appear. Cold iron rests against your palm. Yesterday you wore a ring to show that you had become a wife. Today you are handed keys that show what being a wife actually requires. You fasten them at your belt. They make a small sound when you move. Agnes notices whether you understand. You think you do. At breakfast, you sit beside your husband while servants carry bowls of pottage into the hall. The food is thick with oats and onions. There is coarse bread, a little cheese, and ale. Nothing ceremonial remains. A servant asks whether the laundress may use extra firewood because several sheets have not dried. You look toward Agnes. She waits. You consider the winter stores. Then you answer, yes, but only enough for this morning. Agnes nods. A tiny decision. Again, this is how your new life arrives. Not with trumpets, with firewood. By midday, you walk through the courtyard alone. Frost has begun melting along the sunny wall. The greyhound follows you. You reach the gate and look toward the road that brought you here. Beyond the river lie fields. Beyond the ridge, the forest. Farther still, your childhood manor. You cannot see it. Perhaps your old dog is sleeping beside the kitchen fire. Perhaps your mother is checking the pantry. Perhaps your father is complaining about the cost of the wedding. Almost certainly he is complaining about the cost of the wedding. You miss them. That does not vanish because your husband is kind. Homesickness and hope can live together. Fear and affection can too. You turn back toward the hall. Smoke rises from the kitchen roof. Someone laughs near the stable. A bell sounds from the chapel. Still unfamiliar, but less strange than yesterday. You touch the iron keys at your belt. For all the rituals that frightened you, marriage is revealing itself not as a single transformation, but as thousands of small days. You will learn the servants' names. You will learn which storehouse corner becomes damp. You will learn which market merchant cheats on measures. You will learn when your husband is worried before he says so. Perhaps he will learn when you need silence. Perhaps there will be difficult winters, arguments, illness, losses. Perhaps there will also be summer evenings near open shutters, autumn harvest suppers, Christmas candles, dogs asleep by the hearth. Children of relatives racing through the hall, pilgrim stories, shared bread, and jokes repeated, until neither of you remembers who first told them. Nothing guarantees happiness. That is true now as it was when you stood at the church door. But uncertainty contains more than danger. It also contains possibility. You walk toward the hall. Your husband stands beneath the doorway waiting for you. Not impatiently, simply waiting. You join him. Behind you, the winter road disappears beneath mist. Ahead, the hearth burns, and the life that terrified you when it was unknown has already begun, almost without your noticing, to become familiar. The evening comes softly. The household finishes its work, one task at a time. The pantry door closes. The last bucket crosses the courtyard. Animals settle into straw. A servant covers the fire. The chapel bell sounds once more beneath the darkening sky. You sit near the hearth, with your mother's wool blanket around your shoulders, and the iron keys rest quietly at your side. There is no feast tonight, no crowd, no teasing songs. Only a few candles, warm ale, low voices, and the steady red glow of embers beneath soot-black rafters. Your husband sits nearby. Neither of you needs to fill every silence. Outside, winter lies over the field, still and pale beneath the moon. The river moves quietly beneath the bridge. Far beyond the ridge, another bell may be sounding over the manor where you grew up. You cannot hear it, but you can remember it. And that is enough. Your breathing slows. The room grows dimmer. The final candle shortens. The strange walls no longer seem quite so strange. Tomorrow there will be bread to count, linen to inspect, servants to learn, doors to unlock, and countless ordinary things waiting patiently for morning. But none of them matter now. For now you are warm. You are safe beside the fire. The long wedding day has passed into memory, and all its bells, muddy roads, candle flames, whispered fears, rosemary charms, and heavy oak doors begin to soften at the edges. The medieval world settles around you. Stone cools beneath darkness. Dogs curl into straw. Horses breathe slowly in their stalls. Smoke fades above the rooftops, and somewhere, in the deep quiet of the night, a bell gives one final distant note before silence returns. You close your eyes. The keys stop moving. The fire sinks low. The road is finished. The hall is warm. And slowly, very slowly, everything becomes quiet.